The music had just shifted to At Last by Etta James when I saw her. My stepsister Vanessa stood at the edge of the dance floor, and my stomach dropped. She wasn't supposed to be wearing white. Nobody wore white to a wedding except the bride. That was basic etiquette. But there she was in a flowing white gown that looked suspiciously like a wedding dress, complete with a small train that she kept adjusting for maximum visibility. "Is that?" my new husband Marcus whispered in my ear as we swayed. "Don't," I whispered back, forcing my smile to stay in place. "Just don't. Not today." But I knew Vanessa. I'd known her for 12 years, ever since my mom married her father when I was 14. She didn't do anything by accident. The white dress was a declaration of war. I should have seen this coming. The warning signs had been there all week. The mysterious smirks during the rehearsal dinner. The way she'd insisted on sitting at the table closest to the dance floor. The fact that she'd brought a +1 none of us had ever met. A photographer friend who kept taking pictures of her instead of the actual wedding party. "Sophie, you look absolutely radiant," my Aunt Martha had said earlier, squeezing my hand. "Don't let anything ruin this day for you." She glanced meaningfully at Vanessa, who was already working the room in her white gown, letting guests assume she was either part of the wedding party or possibly even another bride. I'd overheard her telling my cousin that it was a special dress for a special announcement. The song was barely halfway through when she started pushing through the crowd, her hand pressed dramatically against her stomach. Oh no. No. I knew that look. I'd seen it before, at my college graduation when she faked a fainting spell, at my engagement party when she'd announced her own engagement to a boyfriend of 2 weeks, at my mother's birthday when she claimed to have won the lottery. "Marcus," I whispered urgently, "she's going toe." "Still PE music," Vanessa screamed, stumbling into the middle of the dance floor. The DJ, a young guy named Tyler who'd been nothing but professional all evening, looked confused but slowly faded the music out. 200 guests turned to stare as Vanessa positioned herself directly in the spotlight meant for our first dance. I caught Tyler's eye and saw something flicker across his face, recognition. He'd been setting up when I casually mentioned my concerns about certain family members causing drama. I'd even joked about Vanessa's history of attention-seeking behavior. He'd laughed and said he'd seen it all in his 5 years of wedding digging. "I'm so sorry," Vanessa gasped, one hand on her stomach, the other pressed to her forehead like a swooning Victorian maiden. I didn't want to steal the spotlight, but here it comes, I thought. Marcus's hand tightened around mine. I could feel the tension radiating from our wedding party. My maid of honor, Jessica, had actually taken a step forward like she was ready to physically intervene. "I'm Parisian auntie with TYNs," Vanessa wailed. "I just found out this morning and I couldn't keep it in anymore. I'm going to be a mommy." The guests erupted in confused murmurs. Some started clapping uncertainly. My Aunt Patricia, who'd have 4 glasses of champagne, actually cheered. But I noticed my mom's face had gone pale, and Vanessa's father, my stepfather Robert, looked like he'd been slapped. "Congratulations?" someone called out uncertainly. Vanessa basked in the attention, spinning so her white dress flared out. "I know it's Sophie's day, but when you get news this big, you just have to share it with family." I watched her performance with a mixture of fury and resignation. This was classic Vanessa. When I'd gotten into medical school, she'd announced she was writing a novel. When I'd gotten engaged, she'd suddenly been discovered by a modeling agency that turned out to be a scam. Every milestone in my life had to be accompanied by some dramatic announcement from her. "Vanessa," Robert started, his voice tight with embarrassment. "This isn't the time." "Oh, I know," she cried, actually twirling now. "I'm so sorry, Sophie. I just couldn't help myself. You know how emotional pregnancy makes you. And twins. Can you believe it? Twins." She was laying it on thick, even for her. The photographer friend was snapping pictures rapidly, probably for whatever social media storm Vanessa was planning later. "We should toast the happy news," Vanessa's best friend Brittany called out, clearly in on whatever this was. "To Vanessa and her twins." That's when Tyler the DJ did something I'll never forget. He leaned into his microphone, his voice cutting through the chaos with professional clarity. "Interesting timing, Vanessa." The room went quiet. Vanessa's tears topped mid-roll. "What?" she said, turning to face him. Tyler was already pulling out his phone, connecting it to the projection system we'd set up for the slideshow later. I mean, it's interesting that you're announcing a pregnancy that you just found out about this morning. Tyler, I breathed, not sure whether to stop him or let him continue. The wall behind the dance floor lit up with a social media post. Vanessa's profile. Posted 2 hours ago, right around the time we've been taking pre-reception photos. When you posted this, Tyler read aloud in a clear, news anchor voice. Lol, can't wait to pull the fake pregnancy prank at my stepsister's wedding. She'll die when I steal her spotlight in this white dress. Hashtag prank queen, hashtag wedding crasher, hashtag twins fake bump. The silence was deafening. Someone dropped a champagne flute. The sound of it shattering seemed to echo forever. That's, Vanessa sputtered, her face cycling through emotions rapidly. That's not. Someone hacked my account. Tyler swiped to the next screenshot with the casual air of a prosecutor presenting evidence. And this one from last week. Bought the pair of a cute white dress for Sophie's wedding. She's gonna lose her mind. Building a fake bump with toilet paper as we speak. I heard gasps from the crowd. My grandmother muttered something in Italian that I'm pretty sure wasn't complimentary. Another swipe. Oh, and here's the tutorial you watched on how to fake a pregnancy announcement for maximum drama. You liked it, and commented perfect for next Saturday. Stop, Vanessa screeched, lunging toward the DJ booth, but Tyler smoothly continued. Wait, there's more. Here's your Amazon order history. Another image appeared. Fake pregnancy belly, ordered Tuesday, 1-day shipping. And look, you left a review. Perfect for pranks. Looks so real. My mother stood up slowly from her table. Her face had gone from pale to a shade of red I'd never seen before. Vanessa Michelle Henderson. I'd never heard my mom use that tone. It was the voice she used exactly once before, when she caught my biological father cheating 15 years ago. Mom, I can explain, Vanessa started, but her voice was drowned out by the murmur of 200 wedding guests processing what they just witnessed. No, Robert interrupted, standing as well. His face showed a mixture of humiliation and fury. No more explaining, no more scenes, no more stunts. He turned to me and Marcus, and I saw tears in his eyes. Sophie, Marcus, I am deeply sorry. We should have addressed this behavior years ago. But Daddy, Vanessa tried again, her white dress now seeming more like a costume than a fashion choice. Now, Vanessa, we're leaving now. But Tyler wasn't done. As Vanessa was being escorted out by her mortified father, he called out cheerfully, "Oh, and Vanessa, I screenshot everything. You know, in case you try to claim you really were pregnant later. I've sent copies to Sophie and your parents. Congratulations on the fake twins, though. You little." Vanessa spun around, but Robert physically pulled her toward the exit. Also, Tyler added, now clearly enjoying himself. "That photographer you brought, he's been live streaming this whole thing. Hi, Kevin." He waved at the photographer, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. 20,000 viewers and counting. You're trending. The doors slammed behind them, the sound echoing through the ballroom. For a moment, nobody moved. Then my 85-year-old grandmother started slow clapping from her wheelchair. "Best wedding entertainment I've seen in 60 years, she announced in her thick Italian accent. Better than when Cousin Lucia's wig caught fire in 72. The tension broke. People started laughing, then applauding. Tyler smoothly started the music back up, picking up at last right where we'd left off, as if nothing had happened. "You okay?" Marcus whispered as we resumed our positions. I looked around the room. My mother was pouring herself a large glass of wine but gave me a thumbs up. My bridesmaids were group hugging by the bar. My college friends were high-fiving Tyler, who was graciously accepting tips and business cards. "Actually," I said, surprising myself. "Yeah, I'm great." And I was. Because for the first time in 12 years, someone had finally called Vanessa out on her behavior. Not quietly, not privately, but in front of everyone she'd been trying to impress. The rest of the reception was magical. Without Vanessa's toxic energy, people relaxed and actually enjoyed themselves. My mom even made an impromptu toast, apologizing for the interruption and praising Tyler as the hero we didn't know we needed. She also announced that family therapy would be starting immediately for those who needed it, which got a knowing laugh from the crowd. During dinner, people kept approaching our table with stories of their own about Vanessa. My cousin revealed she'd worn white to her wedding too. My college roommate mentioned the time Vanessa had faked a broken leg at my graduation party. It was like a dam had broken. Everyone finally felt free to acknowledge what we'd all been politely ignoring for years. How did Tyler even know to screenshot that stuff? Marcus asked during our father-daughter dance. My stepfather had graciously offered to step in for my late father. I grinned. I may have mentioned to him during setup that my stepsister had a history of causing scenes. Told him to keep an eye on social media, just in case. Didn't actually think he would. Remind me to tip him extra, Marcus laughed. Later, as I was touching up my makeup in the bathroom, a group of guests I didn't recognize approached me. "We're Vanessa's coworkers," one woman explained. "We just wanted to say we're sorry for what happened, but also, thank you. She pulls this stuff at work too. Maybe now she'll finally get help." As the night went on, Tyler became something of a celebrity. He told the story of how he'd noticed Vanessa's posts while scrolling during a break, how he'd immediately started screenshotting everything, how he even found her Amazon review through her public wish list. "I've been doing this for 5 years," he explained to an eager crowd. "You develop a sixth sense for drama. Plus, Sophie mentioned her concerns, so I set up some Google alerts. The Amazon thing was just lucky. She'd shared her wish list on Facebook last month." But the real vindication came at the end of the night. As Marcus and I were leaving for our honeymoon, Tyler pulled me aside. "Hey, so full disclosure," he said. "I do social media monitoring for a lot of events now. Started after a birthday party disaster last year. Your stepsister's not the first person to try the fake pregnancy thing." "Really?" "Oh yeah, it's like a trending thing now. How to upstage the bride. There are whole forums dedicated to it. Reddit threads, TikTok tutorials, the works." He shook his head. "But posting about it beforehand? Using your real name? That's just amateur hour." He handed me a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Screenshots, timestamps, even the metadata proving they're real. The live stream recording too. You know, in case she tries anything else." I looked at the small drive in my hand. Why go to all this trouble? Tyler's expression softened. "My sister's wedding got ruined by a narcissistic relative. Nobody stood up for her. She never got her perfect day back." He smiled. "Besides, it's your wedding. You deserve to have your first dance. And honestly, it was really satisfying to watch her face when I pulled up those screenshots." As our car pulled away from the venue, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. "Mom, I'm so sorry, honey. Robert and I are having a serious talk about Vanessa's behavior. This was the last straw. We're looking into treatment programs. My bridesmaid, OMG Tyler, is a Lee G and got his card for my wedding. Unknown number. Hi Sophie, this is Tyler's girlfriend. That video has 50K views already. Vanessa's wedding crashing days are over. Congrats on your marriage. College friend, your wedding is trending on Twitter. #FakeBumpgate. I turned my phone off and snuggled closer to Marcus. Vanessa had tried to ruin my wedding with a fake pregnancy in a white dress. Instead, she'd given me the best gift possible. Freedom from ever having to pretend her behavior was acceptable again. 6 months later, I received a letter from Vanessa. She was in therapy, had moved 3 states away, and was working on herself. She apologized, a real apology, not her usual manipulation. She mentioned that seeing herself on that projection screen, having her lies displayed for everyone to see, had been her rock bottom. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, don't need rebuilding. Tyler, on the other hand, became wedding DJ famous. He started a side business in event security, basically monitoring social media for potential wedding and party crashers. He even gave a TED talk, Screenshots and Solidarity, how social media can protect your special day. And the video? It became a viral sensation, spawning countless memes and even a few copycat exposures at other weddings. Vanessa inadvertently started a movement of DJs and wedding planners taking a more proactive approach to managing disruptive guests. My wedding video is beautiful. There's a brief moment of chaos in the middle, sure. But what most people remember is the sight of Tyler the DJ, calmly destroying a narcissist with nothing but screenshots and a projector, while the bride and groom continued their first dance. It wasn't the wedding I planned. It was better. Because it was the wedding where I finally stopped being afraid of Vanessa's stunts, where my family finally saw her true colors, and where a DJ named Tyler became a legend. And yes, I kept the USB drive. Not because I planned to use it, But as a reminder, sometimes the best response to someone trying to steal your spotlight is to let them, and make sure everyone can see exactly what they're doing in the light.
The tech conference after party was in full swing, the air thick with the scent of expensive champagne and idle chatter. As I made my way through the crowd, glass of rosé in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My eyes scanned the room, searching for my husband, Rowan, who had drifted away moments earlier. That's when I saw them. Rowan, in a dimly lit corner, laughing intimately with a woman I didn't recognize. My heart stopped, and a tightness gripped my chest. I knew Rowan, and this wasn't normal. Steeling myself, I drew closer, straining to hear their hushed conversation. June, I can't wait for us to start our new life together. That house we looked at is perfect. Just wait until Lila finds out. Rowan's words sent a shockwave through me. A new house? With this woman? My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what I was hearing. Don't worry, darling. Once the money from your little embezzlement scheme clears, we'll be set. Lila will be none the wiser, June purred, her hand trailing along Rowan's arm. Embezzlement? My head spun as the pieces fell into place. Rowan, my loving husband, the father of my children, had been betraying me all this time. Rage and betrayal surged through me, threatening to consume me. I cleared my throat, causing them to jump in surprise. Rowan, June, what a pleasant surprise. Rowan's face drained of color as he stumbled to find the right words. Lila, this isn't what it looks like. Isn't it? I fired back, my voice dripping with venom. Because it looks like you're planning to run off with this woman, using money you stole from my company. June's eyes narrowed, a sly smile playing on her lips. Oh, Rowan, you didn't tell your dear wife about our little arrangement? Rowan shot June a pleading look, but she seemed to relish in his discomfort. Lila, please, let me explain. Explain what, Rowan? I cut him off, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and heartbreak. How you've been betraying me, our family, and everything I've built. No, I don't want to hear it. I turned on my heel, determined to put as much distance between myself and this train wreck as possible. But Rowan's hand shot out, grasping my arm. Lila, wait, please, let's talk about this. I can fix this, I promise. I yanked my arm free, glaring at him with a fury I hadn't known I possessed. Fix it? How, Rowan? By running off with your mistress and my money? I scoffed, the words burning my tongue. No, I'm done. We're done. I want a divorce. With that, I stormed away, leaving Rowan and June in my wake, their shocked expressions searing into my memory. As I made my way out of the conference center, my vision blurred with tears of betrayal and rage. How could he do this to me, to our family? The drive home was a blur of my mind racing with 1,000 questions and 1,000 more answers I didn't want to confront. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had made up my mind. I was going to fight. I was going to take back everything Rowan had stolen from me, starting with my company and my life. The drive home from the tech conference felt like an eternity. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, a desperate need for answers. How could Rowan do this to me? To our family? The image of him with that woman, June, plotting to run off with my money, burned in my mind, searing into my very soul. As I pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I had to get a handle on this, to channel my fury into action. Lila Blackwood didn't back down, not from anyone, especially not her own husband. With a deep breath, I marched into the house, my footsteps echoing with determination. I found Rowan in the living room, pacing anxiously, his face a picture of guilt and panic. Lila, thank God you're back. We need to talk about what you heard. I held up a hand, cutting him off. Save it, Rowan. I don't want to hear your pathetic excuses. My voice was calm, but my eyes burned with barely contained rage. I want the truth. Everything. Rowan's shoulders slumped, and he sank into the couch, running a hand through his hair. It started a few months ago. I got in over my head with some gambling debts, and I needed money fast. So I started skimming from your company accounts. Just a little at first, but then it spiraled out of control. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. And June, how does she fit into all this? June, she was someone I met at the casino. She saw an opportunity to get in on the money, and we started planning to run off together. I'm sorry, Lila. I never meant for any of this to happen. Sorry? I scoffed, the word dripping with contempt. You're sorry? Rowan, you've betrayed me, our family, and everything I've built. Do you have any idea what this could do to my company? Rowan's eyes widened in panic. Lila, please, you can't tell anyone. I'll pay it all back, I swear. Just give me some time. I shook my head, my resolve hardening. No, Rowan. You've had your chance and you blew it. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure you pay for what you've done. Divorce? Lila, you can't be serious. Rowan surged to his feet, desperation etched in every line of his face. Think of the kids. Think of everything we've built together. I am thinking of the kids, Rowan, I replied, my voice cutting like ice. I'm thinking of the life you've stolen from them, the stability you've destroyed. And as for everything we've built, well, you've made it very clear that it means nothing to you. I turned to leave, pausing only to glare at him over my shoulder. This is your mess, Rowan. Clean it up, because if you don't, I will, and you won't like the consequences. With that, I strode out of the room, my mind already racing with 1,000 plans to untangle the web of deceit Rowan had woven. I would not go down without a fight. I would reclaim what was mine, no matter the cost. The moment I stepped into my office, a sense of purpose and determination washed over me. Rowan's betrayal had shattered my world, but I refused to let him win. This was my life, my company, and I would be damned if I let him destroy everything I'd built. I quickly called a meeting with the executive team, Marco, my trusted CFO, and Clara, my longtime mentor and closest confidante. As they gathered around the conference table, I could see the concern etched on their faces. Lila, what's going on? Marco asked, his brow furrowed. I heard the rumors about you and Rowan, but I wanted to hear it from you. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation ahead. Rowan has been embezzling money from the company. He's been using it to fund a gambling addiction and to set up a new life with his mistress. Clara's eyes widened in shock, while Marco's face darkened with fury. That bastard, he growled. How much has he taken? I'm not sure yet, I admitted, but I need you both to help me get to the bottom of this. I want a full forensic audit of the company financials, and I want it done yesterday. Consider it done, Marco said, already pulling out his phone to assemble the team. And that's not all. I turned to Clara, my gaze unwavering. I need your help navigating the legal minefield. I'm filing for divorce, and I want to make sure Rowan pays for what he's done. Clara reached across the table, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. Of course, Lila. I'll put my best people on it. We'll make sure he doesn't get away with this. As the meeting adjourned, I felt a newfound sense of purpose. Rowan may have betrayed me, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I was going to take back control of my life, my company, and my future. Over the next few days, I worked tirelessly with Marco and his team, digging deeper into the company's finances. The numbers were staggering. Rowan had siphoned off millions, all while living a lavish lifestyle with his mistress. The rage I felt only fueled my determination. Concurrently, Clara's legal team sprung into action, freezing Rowan's assets and preparing for a messy divorce battle. They uncovered even more of Rowan's deceit, including debts he had racked up in my name. It was infuriating, but I was grateful to have such a capable team fighting in my corner. As the legal proceedings began, Rowan grew increasingly desperate, lashing out with threats and attempts at manipulation, but I refused to back down. I had spent years building my company, my reputation, and my life. I wasn't about to let Rowan destroy it all. You'll regret this, Lila, he snarled during one particularly heated exchange. I'll make sure you and the kids lose everything. I met his gaze, unflinching. I don't think so, Rowan. You're the one who's going to lose everything. Your money, your freedom, your family. This is my life, and I'm taking it back. With that, I turned and walked away, my steps filled with a newfound confidence. I had the support of my allies, the weight of the evidence on my side, and a burning desire for justice. Rowan may have thought he could outsmart me, but he was about to learn a hard lesson. You don't mess with Lila Blackwood. As the legal battle with Rowan raged on, I was grateful to have a strong support system in my corner. Marco, my loyal CFO and friend, had been instrumental in unraveling the financial web Rowan had woven. He worked tirelessly, poring over every transaction, every account, to piece together the full extent of the embezzlement. And then there was Clara, my trusted mentor and confidant. Her legal team was a force to be reckoned with, navigating the treacherous waters of the divorce proceedings with a skill that left Rowan's lawyers floundering. They uncovered even more of Rowan's deception, from hidden assets to fraudulent loans taken out in my name. "This is a mess, Lila," Clara said during one of our strategy sessions. "But we're going to make sure Rowan pays for what he's done. I promise you that." I nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude and determination. "I know, Clara. I couldn't do this without you and Marco. You two have been my rocks through all of this." Clara reached across the table, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. "That's what family is for. We're in this together, Lila. All the way." I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. With Clara and Marco by my side, I knew I could face anything Rowan threw at me. But Rowan, it seemed, was not one to go down without a fight. As the proceedings dragged on, his desperation became more and more apparent. He resorted to threats, trying to intimidate me into backing down. "You think you can just take everything from me?" he snarled during one particularly heated exchange. "I won't let you, Lila. I'll make sure you and the kids suffer for this." I held my ground, refusing to be cowed by his empty threats. "The only one who's going to suffer is you, Rowan. You brought this on yourself. Now you're going to face the consequences." Rowan's face contorted with rage, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the man I thought I knew, the man I had loved and trusted. But that man was long gone, replaced by a desperate, greedy individual who had betrayed everything we'd built together. As the legal proceedings continued, Rowan's behavior only grew more erratic. He lashed out at my allies, threatening Marco and even going so far as to confront Clara in her own office. "You're all a bunch of vultures, circling around to pick at the scraps of my life," he shouted, his face twisted with fury. "I won't let you take everything from me." Clara, ever the picture of composure, simply regarded him with a cool, steady gaze. "The only person taking anything from you, Rowan, is you. You've done this to yourself, and now you're going to pay the price." Rowan's shoulders slumped, the fight seeming to drain from him. But I knew better than to let my guard down. This was a man who had shown himself capable of the most despicable betrayals, and I couldn't afford to underestimate him. As I left Clara's office, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Rowan was a wounded animal, and wounded animals were the most dangerous. I knew that the final showdown was still to come, and I had to be ready for anything. As the legal battle with Rowan dragged on, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. The constant threats, the whispers of his crimes, and the strain it was putting on my company and my family, it was becoming too much to bear. That's when I decided to go on the offensive. With the help of my trusted friend and PR maven, Samantha, I crafted a carefully orchestrated plan to expose Rowan's misdeeds to the world. "It's time to shift the narrative, Lila," Samantha said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Let's take control of the story before Rowan can spin it to his advantage." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "I'm ready. Whatever it takes to bring him down and protect my company and my family." Over the next few weeks, Samantha worked tirelessly, using her extensive network of media contacts to plant the seeds of Rowan's downfall. She fed juicy tidbits to the tech press, hinting at the scandal brewing behind the scenes, the embezzlement, the gambling, the mistress. It didn't take long for the story to pick up steam. Soon, headlines were blaring, and the public was clamoring for more details. Rowan, who had once been a respected figure in the industry, found himself thrust into the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. When the sharks began to circle, Rowan grew increasingly desperate, lashing out at me and my allies, but we were ready for him. "You think this is going to save you, Lila?" He spat, his eyes wild with fury. "You've only made things worse. Now the whole world knows what a conniving bitch you are." I met his gaze, unflinching. "No, Rowan, the whole world knows what a despicable, greedy man you are, and they're going to watch as you pay for your sins." Rowan let out a humorless laugh. "You really think you can win this? You have no idea what I'm capable of." "Oh, but I do," I replied, my voice dripping with contempt, "and that's why I'm going to make sure you never hurt me or my family ever again." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Rowan seething in his own impotent rage. I knew that the worst was yet to come, but I was prepared. I had the support of my allies, the weight of the evidence on my side, and a burning desire for justice. As the media storm raged on, I continued to work tirelessly with Samantha and my legal team to ensure that Rowan's misdeeds were exposed for all to see. We leveraged every connection, every resource at our disposal, until the truth became impossible to ignore. Rowan's gambling addiction, his lavish lifestyle funded by my company's money, his betrayal of our family, it all came pouring out, a torrent of revelations that left him reeling. I watched with a grim satisfaction as his social and professional standing crumbled, his once vaunted reputation reduced to ashes. And through it all, I remained steadfast, my focus laser-sharp on the ultimate goal, reclaiming my life, my company, and my future. Rowan had taken so much from me, but I was determined to take it all back, and then some. As the final showdown in the courtroom loomed, I knew that the stakes had never been higher, but this time I was the one in control. This time, Rowan would answer for his crimes, and I would emerge victorious. The day of the final courtroom showdown had arrived, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of nervous anticipation coursing through my veins. After months of legal battles, of exposing Rowan's deceit and betrayal, this was the moment of reckoning. As I stepped into the imposing courtroom, my eyes immediately landed on Rowan, sitting hunched at the defendant's table, his once confident demeanor now tinged with desperation. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the challenge ahead, and joined my own legal team, led by the formidable Vivian. "Are you ready for this, Lila?" Vivian asked, her gaze unwavering. I nodded, my jaw set with determination. "More than ready. Let's make him pay for what he's done." The proceedings began with Vivian laying out the evidence, the meticulous paper trail of Rowan's embezzlement, the damning financial records, the testimony of those he'd wronged. With each passing moment, Rowan's face grew paler, the noose tightening around his neck. But just when I thought the case was all but won, Rowan's lawyer pulled a surprise witness, June, the woman he'd been planning to run off with. As June took the stand, her eyes darted around the courtroom, a mixture of fear and defiance etched on her face. I didn't know the full extent of Rowan's crimes," she stammered. "I only found out about the embezzlement and his gambling addiction after he dragged me into his scheme." Rowan's lawyer pounced, sensing an opportunity. "So you're telling us that my client kept you in the dark about his illegal activities?" June hesitated, her gaze flickering to where I sat. "Yes, that's right, Rowan. He lied to me, just like he lied to his wife. I had no idea what he was doing until it was too late." The courtroom erupted in a flurry of murmurs, and I felt a surge of triumph. Rowan's carefully crafted web of lies was unraveling before our eyes. Vivian wasted no time in seizing the advantage. "So, Miss June, are you telling this court that you were an unwitting accomplice in Mr. Blackwood's criminal activities?" June nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm sorry for what I've done. I never meant for any of this to happen." Rowan's face contorted with fury, and he leaped to his feet, his chair clattering to the floor. "You backstabbing bitch!" he bellowed, his eyes wild with rage. "How dare you turn against me?" The judge slammed his gavel, his voice booming through the stunned silence. "Order in the court. Mr. Blackwood, you will control yourself or be held in contempt." Rowan sank back into his seat, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction wash over me. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment Rowan would finally face the consequences of his actions. As the final arguments were presented, I watched Rowan's world crumble around him. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimonies damning. There was no escape, no way for him to wriggle out of this. And when the verdict was read, sentencing Rowan to a lengthy prison term and stripping him of his assets, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Justice had been served, and I had emerged victorious. Rowan's betrayal had been laid bare for all to see, and now he would pay the price. As I left the courtroom, I couldn't help but feel a sense of bittersweet triumph. I had won, but at what cost? The pain of Rowan's betrayal still stung, and the scars would take time to heal. But I knew that I was stronger for it, and that I was ready to start anew, to reclaim my life and my future. The verdict had come down, and Rowan's world crumbled around him. As he was led away in handcuffs, his face contorted with a mix of disbelief and rage, I couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. "This isn't over, Lila," he shouted, his voice laced with desperation. "I'll make you pay for this, I swear." I simply regarded him with a cool, steady gaze. No, Rowan, this is over. You've lost everything, your freedom, your money, your family, and now you're going to pay the price for your betrayal. With that, he was whisked away, the heavy courtroom doors slamming shut behind him. I let out a deep breath, feeling as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The nightmare was finally over. In the days and weeks that followed, the full extent of Rowan's downfall became painfully clear. His assets were seized, his reputation in tatters, and his once vaunted status in the tech community reduced to ashes. The media, once obsessed with his rise to power, now gleefully reported on his spectacular fall from grace. As for me, I emerged from the ordeal stronger and more determined than ever. With the help of my loyal allies, I set about the task of rebuilding my life and my company. Marco, my trusted CFO, worked tirelessly to restore the financial stability that Rowan had threatened to destroy, while Clara's legal team ensured that I retained full custody of our children and a significant portion of our joint assets. You've come out of this a warrior, Lila, Clara said, a proud smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Rowan thought he could break you, but you've proven him wrong. Now it's time to reclaim your life. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. That's exactly what I intend to do. I won't let Rowan's betrayal define me. This is my chance to start fresh, to build something even better. And that's exactly what I did. With a renewed sense of purpose, I poured my energy into my company, steering it to new heights of success. I used my experiences to create a foundation dedicated to supporting and empowering other women entrepreneurs, ensuring that they never had to face the kind of betrayal and adversity that I had endured. As for Rowan, his downfall was swift and unforgiving. Stripped of his wealth and social standing, he found himself adrift, a pariah in the very community he had once dominated. Attempts to rebuild his life were met with scorn and rejection, a constant reminder of the consequences of his actions. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for him, but it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and resentment that still simmered within me. Rowan had taken so much from me, and even now, as he languished in the ruins of his once gilded life, I couldn't find it in myself to forgive him. You brought this on yourself, Rowan, I said, when he reached out to me one final time, his voice laced with desperation. And now you have to live with the consequences. With that, I severed all ties, determined to move forward and never look back. Rowan's betrayal had changed me, but it hadn't broken me. If anything, it had forged me into a stronger, more resilient woman, one who was ready to take on the world and win. As the dust settled on the tumultuous events that had upended my life, I found myself standing at the precipice of a new chapter. Rowan's betrayal had shaken me to my core, but it had also forged me into a stronger, more resilient woman. I was determined to take back control of my life and my future, and that's exactly what I set out to do. With Rowan's assets and embezzled funds returned to me, I was able to not only stabilize my company but propel it to new heights of success. The public's sympathy was firmly on my side, and I leveraged that goodwill to secure lucrative contracts and investments. My team, led by the ever-reliable Marco, worked tirelessly to streamline operations and capitalize on the newfound momentum. It's like a weight has been lifted off our shoulders, Lila, Marco said during one of our strategy meetings. Now that Rowan's mess is behind us, we can focus on taking this company to the next level. I nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of my lips. That's exactly what I intend to do, Marco. This is our chance to build something truly remarkable. And that's exactly what we did. Over the following months, I poured my energy into not only rebuilding my company, but also creating a foundation to support other women entrepreneurs. The Lila Blackwood Foundation, as it came to be known, was a passion project that allowed me to channel my experiences into empowering others who faced similar challenges. You're an inspiration, Lila, Clara, my trusted mentor, told me during the foundation's launch event. The way you've risen from the ashes of Rowan's betrayal is a testament to your strength and resilience. I felt a swell of pride, but also a twinge of bittersweet emotion. It wasn't easy, Clara. Rowan's actions nearly destroyed me, but I refused to let him win. This foundation is my way of ensuring that no other woman has to go through what I did. Clara squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with pride. And that's exactly why it's going to be a success. You've turned your pain into purpose, Lila. That's the mark of a true leader. As the foundation gained momentum, I found myself drawing strength from the women whose lives I was able to touch. Their stories of triumph over adversity, their determination to forge their own paths, it all served as a powerful reminder of why I had embarked on this journey in the first place. And then one day, as I was reviewing the Foundation's latest initiatives, I received an unexpected call. It was Rowan, his voice tinged with desperation. "Lila, please, you have to help me. I've lost everything, my money, my freedom, my reputation. I'm a pariah, and I have nothing left." I paused, my finger hovering over the end call button. A part of me wanted to simply hang up, to let Rowan wallow in the consequences of his own actions. But another part, a small, stubborn part, urged me to at least hear him out. "What do you want, Rowan?" I asked, my voice measured and calm. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and I could almost feel the weight of his shame. I want to start over, Lila. I want to make amends, to try and rebuild my life. But I can't do it alone. Please, help me." I took a deep breath, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. After everything Rowan had put me through, could I really find it in myself to offer him a second chance? Could I, the woman he had betrayed so deeply, be the one to extend a lifeline? In the end, the decision wasn't as difficult as I had anticipated. "Rowan, I can't forgive you for what you've done. The damage you've caused is too great, and the trust you've broken can't be mended." I paused, steeling myself for what I was about to say next. "But if you're truly serious about starting over, about making amends, then I'll help you. On one condition. You have to be willing to work for it. Nothing will be handed to you this time." There was a moment of stunned silence, and then a faint, fragile voice came through the receiver. "Thank you, Lila. I won't let you down. I promise." As I hung up the phone, I felt a strange mix of emotions, a lingering resentment, a sliver of hope, and a profound sense of purpose. Rowan's road to redemption would be a long and arduous one, but if anyone could walk that path, it was him. And if he succeeded, perhaps there was a chance for true healing, for both of us. With a renewed sense of determination, I turned my attention back to the Foundation, ready to forge ahead and continue making a difference in the lives of women everywhere. This was my new beginning, and I was determined to make the most of it.
I always knew my sister's engagement party would be the death of me, but I never expected it to end with me being accused of sleeping with her fiancé in front of 200 guests. My name is Sawyer, and I've spent 28 years being Caroline's little sister. You know the type, the golden child who excels at everything while you're just there. Tonight was supposed to be her moment again, and I was determined to fade into the background like always. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballrooms sparkled with champagne flutes and fake smiles. I adjusted my emerald dress, the one Caroline picked out because it wouldn't overshadow her white designer gown, and tried to blend in with the potted plants. "There's my favorite wallflower." Blaze appeared beside me, his familiar grin offering temporary relief. "You look like you're having about as much fun as a root canal." "That obvious?" I sipped my champagne. "I'm trying to perfect my invisibility act." "Good luck with that. Your mother's been telling everyone how her baby is still single while Caroline landed the perfect man." He rolled his eyes. Speaking of Prince Charming, Dylan was working the room like a politician, his perfectly styled hair and $1,000 suit screaming old money. He caught my eye and winked. I quickly looked away, my stomach churning. "God, I need air," I muttered, heading for the terrace. Blaze followed, concern etched on his face. "So, what's wrong? You've been off all night." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Another message from Dylan. I'd been getting them for weeks, each one more inappropriate than the last. I deleted it without reading, just like all the others. "Nothing's wrong," I lied. "Just family stuff." "Ladies," my mother's voice cut through the night air. "Caroline's about to give her speech. Get inside now." We shuffled back in as Caroline took center stage, radiant in white. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the room, "especially my beautiful sister Sawyer." My chest tightened. This wasn't in the script. "My sister, who's always been there for me." Caroline's voice cracked. "Who I trusted completely." She turned to face me, tears streaming down her face. "How could you sleep with him?" The room went silent. 200 pairs of eyes locked onto me. What? I stammered. Caroline, I saw the messages, she screamed. On his phone. All those late-night texts, the pictures. Caroline, please. Dylan stepped forward, playing the concerned fiancé perfectly. Let's discuss this privately. No, she pulled away from him. I want everyone to know what kind of sister she is. Rosalie, Caroline's best friend, rushed to her side. Care, honey, let's go somewhere quiet. I stood frozen as whispers erupted around me. My mother's face had turned to stone. Blaze gripped my arm, keeping me upright as my world imploded. I never slept with him, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Caroline, you have to believe me. Show them your phone then, Rosalie challenged, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. Show everyone the messages. Yes, show us, Caroline demanded. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I deleted them all. He wouldn't stop sending them, but I never responded. Not once. How convenient, someone muttered in the crowd. Caroline, I stepped toward my sister, but she backed away. You know me. I would never. I thought I knew you, she spat. I guess I was wrong. The room spun as Caroline stormed out, Rosalie close behind. Dylan gave me one last look. Was that a smirk? Before following them. Well, my mother said, her voice arctic. I suppose the party's over. As guests began filtering out, Blaze pulled me aside. What really happened? I took a shaky breath. Remember when you said I've been off lately? It's because of Dylan. He's been messaging me for weeks, getting more aggressive each time. I kept deleting them because I didn't want to hurt Caroline, but I pulled out an envelope from my clutch. I also kept screenshots, just in case. In case of what? I watched as Rosalie hurried after my sister, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. Something about her eagerness to fuel the drama didn't sit right. In case exactly this happened, I said quietly. And now I think I know why. The ballroom emptied around us, leaving behind half-empty champagne glasses and shattered family ties. But as I gripped the envelope containing proof of Dylan's true nature, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. You need to see this now, I said, pounding on Caroline's apartment door. The hallway was eerily quiet at midnight, but I knew she was home. Her car was in its usual spot, and I'd seen her bedroom light on. Go away. Her voice was thick with tears. Care, please. I have proof. I pressed my forehead against the door. I'm not leaving until you let me show you. The lock clicked, and Caroline appeared, mascara streaked across her face. She'd changed into sweatpants but still wore her engagement party jewelry, a painful reminder of the evening's disaster. 5 minutes, she said coldly. Then you leave. I followed her inside, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. The apartment was a mess. Flowers torn apart, photos face down, an empty wine bottle on the coffee table. Where's Rosalie? I asked, noticing her best friend's absence. She went to get more wine. Caroline collapsed onto the couch. Someone should be enjoying my engagement party. I sat beside her, keeping distance between us. Remember when we were kids and I broke Mom's favorite vase? You took the blame because you knew she'd go easier on you. What's your point? My point is, I've never forgotten that, or any other time you've had my back. I pulled out my phone, which is why I would never betray you like this. I opened my screenshots folder and handed her the phone. These started 3 months ago. At first they were casual, asking about your favorite things, claiming he wanted to surprise you. Then they got different. Caroline's hands trembled as she scrolled. Her face paled with each message. I can't stop thinking about you. She read aloud. Caroline doesn't understand me like you do. We should meet somewhere private. She looked up, eyes wide. You never responded. Not once, I confirmed. I blocked him twice, but he kept using new numbers. I saved everything because something felt wrong, like he was setting me up. But why would he? The door opened, and Rosalie bustled in with 2 bottles of wine. She froze when she saw me. What is she doing here? Rosalie's voice was sharp. Showing me some interesting messages, Caroline said quietly. You wouldn't know anything about those, would you, Rose? Rosalie's perfectly manicured hand tightened around the wine bottle. Care, honey, you're upset. Don't let her manipulate you. Funny choice of words, I said, pulling more papers from my envelope, especially considering these. I spread out printed screenshots of conversations between Dylan and Rosalie. Weeks of planning, coordinating when to send messages, discussing how to make Caroline doubt me. "Where did you get those?" Rosalie whispered. "Blaze works in cybersecurity," I said. "Amazing what you can recover from a cloud backup, even after deletion. Want to explain why you're helping Dylan set me up?" Caroline stood, wine forgotten. "Rose, tell me this isn't real." Rosalie's facade cracked. "He promised. It wasn't supposed to." She took a shaky breath. "You don't understand. Dylan and I—" "How long?" Caroline's voice was deadly quiet. 6 months, Rosalie whispered. "He said he'd leave you for me, but he needed a reason that wouldn't hurt his reputation. When he noticed how jealous you get about Sawyer—" I caught Caroline as her knees buckled. Together, we sank onto the couch while Rosalie stood awkwardly, still clutching her wine bottles like shields. "Get out," Caroline said. "Care, please." "Get out!" Caroline hurled a throw pillow at her former best friend. Rosalie fled, leaving the apartment door wide open behind her. For a long moment, we sat in silence. Then Caroline turned to me, fresh tears falling. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have known you'd never—" "Hey!" I pulled her into a hug. "You're not the one who needs to apologize. I humiliated you in front of everyone." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "God, Mom probably thinks—" "Mom always thinks the worst of me anyway." I shrugged. "But that's not important right now. What matters is what we're going to do about this." Caroline's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" I picked up one of the screenshots. "Well, we have proof that your fiancé and best friend conspired to humiliate both of us. They tried to destroy our relationship to cover up their affair." A small smile played at my lips. "Question is, how do we want to return the favor?" For the first time that night, Caroline smiled back, a dangerous glint in her eye that I recognized from our childhood pranking days. "Tell me more," she said. As I began outlining my thoughts, I realized something had shifted. For the first time in our lives, Caroline wasn't the star and I wasn't the shadow. We were equals, united against a common enemy. And heaven help anyone who tried to come between sisters out for revenge. "Check your deleted messages folder," I said, watching Caroline scroll through her phone. We'd moved to her kitchen table, surrounded by coffee cups and revenge plans. Dylan might have gotten sloppy. I never even knew there was a deleted folder. Caroline's fingers trembled as she navigated through her settings. "Oh my God." "What?" "There are dozens of messages, from both of them." She looked up, face pale. "They were deleting them from my phone remotely using some app." I pulled my chair closer. "Show me." The messages painted a sickening picture. While Dylan was sending me inappropriate texts, he'd been carrying on a full-blown affair with Rosalie. They'd even used Caroline's own apartment when she was at work. "That's why she always offered to water my plants," Caroline whispered. I gave her a key because I trusted her. "Keep reading." Caroline's gasp echoed through the kitchen. They were planning to announce their engagement next month, at my parents' anniversary party. She slammed the phone down. He was going to dump me in front of our entire family. "And blame it all on me," I added. "The jealous little sister who ruined everything. No one would question it." "Mom would have disowned you." "Pretty sure she already has." I took a sip of coffee. "But that's not important right now. What matters is that we have everything we need." Caroline's phone buzzed. Dylan's name flashed on the screen. "Perfect timing," I said. "Answer it, on speaker." Caroline's hand shook as she hit the button. "Hello?" "Baby, please." Dylan's voice oozed concern. "Let me explain. Your sister's been throwing herself at me for months. I didn't want to hurt you by telling you—" "Save it," Caroline snapped. "I've seen the messages, the real ones." A pause. "What messages?" "The ones between you and Rosalie, the ones you deleted from my phone." Caroline's voice grew stronger. "The ones about your little plan." "Caroline, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly." "Actually, I'm thinking very clearly." She met my eyes across the table. "Clear enough to know that if you don't meet me at Cafe Luna tomorrow at noon, every single screenshot goes to your father. I wonder how the board of directors would feel about their CEO's son planning to humiliate his fiancé." Another pause, longer this time. "You're bluffing." I leaned toward the phone. "Hi, Dylan. Remember all those messages you sent me? The ones I never responded to? Turns out they're pretty damning when paired with your conversations with Rosalie, especially the parts about using me as your scapegoat. Sawyer. Noon tomorrow, Caroline interrupted. Bring Rosalie, don't be late. She hung up before he could respond. For a moment, we sat in silence. That felt good, she finally said. Just wait until tomorrow. I pulled out my laptop. Now, about those security cameras in Cafe Luna. What about them? Let's just say Blaze owes me a favor, and he's very good at his job. Caroline's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to record the confrontation? Better. I typed rapidly, pulling up blueprints of the cafe. I want to broadcast it, live. To who? Remember that group chat Mom has with all her society friends? The one she added us to, but we never use? I grinned. Turns out Dylan's mom is in it, along with half the country club. Caroline matched my grin. And the board members' wives. Exactly. I closed the laptop. But first we need to make a few calls, starting with that wedding planner who's been blowing up your phone. Amanda, why? Because she's also the event coordinator for your parents' anniversary party. The one where Dylan planned to humiliate you? I raised an eyebrow. I think she deserves a heads up about the change in entertainment. Caroline pulled out her phone again, determination replacing grief in her eyes. What else? We need to call the jewelry store first thing tomorrow. That engagement ring needs to be returned before Dylan can get his hands on it. Already done. Caroline twisted the ring off her finger. I'm meeting them at 10 a.m. Perfect. I stood stretching. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Caroline caught my arm as I headed for the door. Sawyer, thank you for not giving up on me even when I didn't believe you. That's what sisters are for. I hugged her tight. Besides, no one messes with the Townsend girls. No one, she agreed. As I drove home, my phone lit up with a message from Blaze. Cameras are set, audio too. Whatever you're planning, it better be good. I smiled in the darkness. Good didn't begin to cover what we had in store for tomorrow. Dylan and Rosalie thought they could play us against each other. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. Cafe Luna buzzed with its usual lunch crowd, but the tension at our corner table could have cut glass. Caroline sat beside me, elegant in a black dress that screamed, "Funeral for my relationship." Blaze lounged at the counter, pretending to work on his laptop while actually managing our live feed. They're late, Caroline muttered, checking her phone. They'll come. I adjusted my water glass, making sure it wouldn't block the hidden camera. Too much at stake not to. Right on cue, Dylan strode in, Rosalie trailing behind him. He'd worn his power suit, the one he used for board meetings. Rosalie looked like she hadn't slept, her designer outfit wrinkled and her makeup slightly smudged. Caroline, darling, Dylan started, pulling out a chair. Sit down and shut up, Caroline said pleasantly. Several nearby diners glanced over. Perfect. There's no need for drama. Dylan lowered his voice. We can discuss this privately. Like you discussed things privately in my apartment? Caroline's voice carried just enough to draw more attention. While I was at work? Rosalie sank into her chair, face burning. Please. Don't call me that. Caroline pulled out her phone. Only my friends call me that. You know, friends who don't sleep with my fiancé. This is ridiculous. Dylan straightened his tie. Whatever you think you have. I slid my tablet across the table. We have everything. Every message, every plan, every detail about how you were going to blame me for your affair and humiliate Caroline at her parents' anniversary party. Those messages could be faked, Dylan scoffed, but his face had paled. True, I nodded. But the security footage from Caroline's building isn't faked. Neither are the hotel receipts, or the messages you sent me. I leaned forward. Want to see them all? The board members' wives are watching right now. Live. Dylan's head snapped up, finally noticing Blaze in his laptop. His composure cracked. You wouldn't dare. Already did. Caroline smiled sweetly. Wave to your mother, Dylan. She just joined the stream. Rosalie burst into tears. I'm so sorry. He said he loved me. He promised we'd be together. Save it, I cut in. We saw your messages too. This was your idea, wasn't it? The plan to blame me? Rosalie glanced at Dylan, who was frantically checking his phone. Yes, I knew Caroline was always sensitive about you getting attention. It seemed perfect. Perfect? Caroline's voice shook. I've known you since college. You were my maid of honor. And you had everything, Rosalie snapped. The perfect job, the perfect fiancé, the perfect life. I was just your shadow, always the backup plan. How's it feel? I asked quietly. Being someone's shadow? The irony wasn't lost on Caroline. She reached for my hand under the table. The ring, she said to Dylan. It's already back at the jeweler's, along with evidence of how you used company funds to pay for your little rendezvous. Dylan's face went from pale to gray. You can't prove... Check your email, I suggested. The board should be receiving their copies right about now. His phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. You've ruined me, he whispered. No. Caroline stood, her voice clear and strong. You ruined yourself, and you tried to ruin my relationship with my sister in the process. I never meant, Rosalie started. To get caught, I finished. Funny how that works. Dylan grabbed Rosalie's arm. We're leaving. This isn't over. Actually, it is, Blaze called from the counter. The stream just hit 10,000 viewers, including, according to these comments, your father and the entire board. Oh, and Rosalie, Caroline added, your resignation letter from the firm has already been accepted. Amazing how quickly they act when they discover you've been sharing confidential client information with your lover. Rosalie crumpled, mascara streaming down her face. Dylan practically dragged her toward the door, leaving behind his untouched water and what remained of his dignity. The cafe erupted in applause. Someone shouted, "Girl power," from the back. Well, Blaze joined us, closing his laptop. That was better than Netflix. Caroline laughed, a real laugh, maybe her first in days. I can't believe we actually did it. Believe it, I grinned, though Mom's probably having a stroke right now. Let her, Caroline said firmly. For once, I don't care what anyone thinks. You were right all along, and I should have trusted you. Water under the bridge, I waved down a waiter. Now I think this calls for champagne. To Karma. Caroline raised her water glass. To sisters, I corrected. Blaze's phone chimed. Guys, the video's going viral. You might want to prepare for some interesting family dinners. Caroline and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. Let them talk. We'd shown them all exactly what happens when you try to come between sisters. And something told me no one would dare try again. The aftermath hit like a tidal wave. By evening, our phones wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications, calls, and messages. Caroline and I retreated to my apartment where we sat cross-legged on my living room floor, sharing takeout and reading reactions. Listen to this one. Caroline held up her phone. Best karma video ever. The look on his face when they mentioned the board meeting. She scrolled further. It's got 2 million views already. Great, I mumbled around a mouthful of pad thai. Mom's gonna love that. Right on cue, my doorbell rang. We froze, chopsticks midair. Speaking of... Caroline grimaced. I opened the door to find our mother, perfectly coiffed despite the late hour, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Well, she said, sweeping past me, I suppose I should be grateful I found out about this from the video rather than the country club gossip circle. Hello to you too, Mom. I closed the door. Would you like some pad thai? What I'd like, she perched on my sofa, is an explanation. Do you two have any idea what you've done? Caroline stood, shoulders back. Yes, actually. We exposed a cheater and a liar before he could humiliate me at your anniversary party. By humiliating him first? Creating a social media spectacle? No, I joined my sister. By telling the truth. Something Dylan and Rosalie should have tried. Mom's facade cracked slightly. Rosalie, too. But she was like a daughter to me. Yeah, well, Caroline's voice broke. She was like a sister to me, and that didn't stop her from sleeping with my fiancé in my own apartment. Mom's expression softened. She patted the sofa beside her. Sit, both of you. We complied, feeling like kids again. I received some interesting calls today, Mom continued, from the wives of several board members. They're all quite impressed with how you handled things. They are? I blinked. Apparently you're being hailed as some sort of, what did Margaret call it? Sister's goals? Mom shuddered delicately at the modern phrase. The point is, you protected each other, though your methods were rather dramatic. That was my idea, I admitted. The public exposure. No, Caroline interrupted. It was our idea. We did it together. Mom studied us for a long moment. You know, When you were little, all I wanted was for you to be close. But somewhere along the way, she sighed. Perhaps I contributed to the distance between you. Mom, I started. Let me finish. She straightened her skirt. Sawyer, I may have been unfair to you over the years, always comparing you to Caroline. May have been? Caroline scoffed. Caroline, Mom's voice sharpened. You're not innocent either. You've taken advantage of that favoritism. We sat in stunned silence. Our mother had never been this direct about family dynamics. The video of your confrontation made me realize something, she continued. You're strongest when you're together, and I'm proud of you both. You're proud of us causing a social media scandal? I couldn't help asking. I'm proud of you standing up for what's right. Mom actually smiled, though next time, perhaps consider a more private venue. Caroline laughed. No promises. Now, Mom stood, smoothing her dress. About the anniversary party next week. We don't have to go, Caroline said quickly. After all this drama. Of course you're going, Mom cut her off. In fact, I'm counting on it. Several guests have specifically asked if you'll be there. Apparently they're hoping for an encore performance. I choked on my water. Mom! What? If my daughters are going to be internet sensations, I might as well embrace it. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Sawyer, wear that emerald dress again. It suits you. After she left, Caroline and I stared at each other in disbelief. Did our mother just approve of our revenge plot? I asked. I think she did. Caroline grabbed her phone. And speaking of the anniversary party, have you seen Dylan's latest post? I leaned over to look. Dylan had posted a formal apology, claiming temporary insanity and begging for professional forgiveness. Damage control, I snorted. Too little, too late. Way too late, Caroline agreed. But you know what this means? What? He's desperate, which means he might try something at the anniversary party. Her eyes gleamed. Want to plan one more performance? I grabbed my laptop. Call Blaze. If Dylan wants an encore, let's give him one he'll never forget. As we began plotting, I realized something had fundamentally shifted. Not just between Caroline and me, but in how we saw ourselves. We weren't the golden child and the shadow anymore. We were simply sisters, united and unstoppable. And anyone who thought our cafe showdown was impressive hadn't seen anything yet. The country club ballroom glittered with 30 years of anniversary celebrations. Mom had outdone herself, crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough champagne to float a yacht. But Caroline and I were focused on the security feed playing on my phone. There, Caroline pointed. Dylan just arrived, and he's not alone. Sure enough, Rosalie slipped in through the side entrance moments after him. They were trying to be subtle, but the furtive glances gave them away. Right on schedule, I texted Blaze, who was monitoring the club's security system from his car outside. Start recording. I can't believe they actually came, Caroline whispered, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. Of course they did. Dylan's father is on the board with Dad. Missing this party would be career suicide. Speaking of careers, Caroline nodded toward the entrance. Look who else showed up. Amanda, the wedding planner, strutted in wearing a dress that screamed revenge. She'd been furious about losing Caroline's commission, and even more furious when she discovered Dylan had been hitting on her assistant. Perfect, I grinned. Everyone's here. Ready? Caroline squared her shoulders. Born ready. We split up, working the room separately. I caught snippets of conversation as I moved through the crowd, mostly about our viral video with a healthy dose of speculation about tonight's events. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad's voice boomed through the speakers. If I could have your attention, that was my cue. I slipped behind the makeshift stage where the band was setting up, giving Blaze the signal through my phone. The lights dimmed slightly as Dad continued his anniversary speech. Mom beamed beside him, but her eyes kept darting to where Caroline stood near the dessert table. She knew something was coming. And now, Dad wrapped up, I believe my daughters have prepared a special presentation. Caroline joined me on stage as the giant screen behind us flickered to life. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd when security camera footage appeared, showing Dylan and Rosalie entering the party separately. What is this? Dylan stood up, his face reddening. This, Caroline spoke into the microphone, is what a desperate man looks like. The screen split to show multiple angles of Dylan and Rosalie's arrival, along with timestamps from the past hour. Then it switched to footage from earlier that day, them meeting in a hotel lobby, planning their entrance. "Turn it off," Dylan demanded, starting toward the stage. "But wait, there's more." I took the microphone. "Let's see what else our friend Dylan's been up to since our little cafe chat." The screen filled with screenshots. Dylan messaging other women, including Amanda's assistant. Messages to his father claiming Caroline was unstable. Emails to board members trying to spin the situation. You see, Caroline addressed the stunned crowd. Dylan thought he could salvage his reputation by painting us as crazy, vindictive women. Which might have worked, I added, if he hadn't used his company email for everything. Rosalie burst into tears and ran for the exit. Dylan stood frozen, watching his career implode in real time as board members and their wives whispered and pointed. "Oh, and Dad?" Caroline smiled sweetly at Dylan's father. "You might want to audit those expense reports more carefully. We found some interesting charges from hotels, jewelry stores, all billed to the company account." Dylan's father rose slowly, his face thunderous. "My office first thing Monday," he growled at his son. "This is harassment," Dylan shouted, but his voice cracked. "I'll sue." "Go ahead," I challenged. "Discovery would be fascinating." The room erupted in chaos as Dylan stormed out, his father close behind. Several board members followed, phones already out. "Well?" Mom appeared beside us as we left the stage. "That was certainly more dramatic than the string quartet I suggested." "Sorry, Mom," Caroline started. "Don't be." Mom sipped her champagne. "Margaret just told me it was the most entertaining anniversary party she's ever attended." She paused, though perhaps we should skip the video presentation at Christmas. The party shifted into celebration mode, with several guests stopping to congratulate us on our performance. Amanda caught my eye from across the room and raised her glass in approval. "Think we went too far?" Caroline asked quietly as we watched Dylan's mother make a hasty exit. "He was going to destroy your reputation and my relationship with our family," I reminded her. "He got what he deserved." "True." She linked her arm through mine. "Know what else is true?" "What?" "We make a pretty good team." Blaze joined us, laptop under his arm. "Hate to interrupt the sister moment, but you might want to see this. The security footage just leaked online." "What?" Caroline grabbed his computer. "How?" "Apparently someone in IT has a grudge against Dylan. Something about him getting his sister fired last year?" I couldn't help laughing. Karma really is a full circle thing, isn't it? As the party swirled around us, I realized we'd done more than expose Dylan and Rosalie. We'd exposed our own strength, not as rivals, not as golden child and shadow, but as sisters who had each other's backs. And that was worth all the viral videos in the world. Monday morning brought the fallout we've been waiting for. Caroline and I met for coffee at our usual spot, phones buzzing with updates. "Dylan's been suspended pending investigation." Caroline read from her screen. "The board is launching a full audit." "That's not all." I showed her my phone. "Rosalie's been blacklisted from every major PR firm in the city. Apparently, sleeping with clients' fiancés is bad for business." The bell above the cafe door chimed. We looked up to see Amanda rushing in, her face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this." She slid into our booth without invitation. "Dylan just tried to book my services again." "What?" Caroline nearly spilled her latte. "For what?" "His wedding to Rosalie." Amanda's grin was wicked. Apparently they're trying to save face by claiming it was true love all along. "You said no, right?" I asked. "Better." Amanda pulled out her tablet. "I recorded the whole consultation. Wait till you hear his sob story." The video showed Dylan, looking considerably less polished than usual, sitting in Amanda's office. "It's all been a terrible misunderstanding," Video Dylan pleaded. "If we could just show everyone it was real love, not some tawdry affair." "By booking the same venues I reserved for Caroline?" Amanda's voice was acid sweet. "Using the same company credit card you're being investigated for misusing?" "I can explain." "Save it for the board meeting." Amanda's hand appeared, showing him the door. "I hear they're very interested in your explanations lately." Caroline slow clapped as the video ended. "Amanda, you're officially my hero." "Please," Amanda waved her hand. "After what he did to my assistant, this is just the beginning." My phone buzzed again, a message from Blaze. "Speaking of beginnings, guess who just got promoted to head of cybersecurity?" "No way." Caroline peered at my screen. "All because he helped expose the company's security vulnerabilities?" "Apparently, Dylan's father was impressed by his initiative in identifying potential threats. I laughed, though I doubt this was what he had in mind. The cafe door chimed again. This time, Rosalie walked in. She froze when she saw us, her designer outfit replaced by yoga pants and a messy bun. "I'll handle this." Caroline stood before I could stop her. We watched as she approached Rosalie, who looked ready to bolt. But instead of the confrontation we expected, Caroline simply handed her a card. "What was that about?" I asked when she returned. "Just giving her the number of my therapist." Caroline shrugged. "Someone that desperate for attention clearly needs help." "That's surprisingly mature of you." "Well," she stirred her coffee, "holding on to anger only hurts me. Besides, karma's doing a pretty good job on its own." Amanda's phone pinged. "Speaking of karma, Dylan's father just called. Wants to know if I've heard from his son. Apparently he missed the board meeting this morning." "Missed it?" I frowned. That's not like him. Caroline's phone lit up with a news alert. She read it and burst out laughing. "What?" Amanda and I asked simultaneously. "Dylan was caught trying to leave the country last night, with company funds." Caroline could barely get the words out. Airport security stopped him because someone reported his credit cards as stolen. Someone? I raised an eyebrow at Blaze's contact photo on my phone. "The best part," Caroline continued, "Rosalie turned him in. She's cooperating with the investigation in exchange for immunity." "Hell hath no fury," Amanda mused. "Like a woman scorned?" I suggested. "Like two sisters with a good plan and better tech support," Caroline corrected. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom. "Lunch today? Your father wants to discuss making you both partners in the family business." Caroline read the message over my shoulder. "Both of us? Really? Why not?" I smiled. "We've proven we work well together." "That we do." She clinked her coffee cup against mine. "Though maybe we should stick to legal business strategies from now on." "Probably safer," Amanda agreed, "though less entertaining for the rest of us." As we laughed and shared more updates about Dylan's downfall, I realized something. The shadow I'd lived in for so long hadn't just lifted. It had transformed into a spotlight big enough for both Caroline and me. "You know what this means, right?" Caroline interrupted my thoughts. "What?" "Mom's going to expect us to coordinate our outfits for board meetings now." "As long as it's not another emerald dress," I grinned. "Deal." She grabbed her purse. "Ready to go shock Dad with our business proposals?" "Born ready," I echoed her words from the party. As we left the cafe, Amanda called after us. "Try not to cause any more scandals." "No promises," we called back in unison. Because while our revenge saga might be over, our story as sisters was just beginning. And something told me it would be even better than the viral videos suggested. "Ready for this?" Caroline squeezed my hand as we stood outside the boardroom. Through the glass walls, we could see our father addressing the board members. "As ready as I'll ever be," I smoothed my blazer, navy blue, not emerald green. "You remember your part?" "Please." She rolled her eyes. "I was born for this presentation." Dad's voice carried through the door. "And now I'd like to introduce our newest partners." We walked in together, shoulders back, heads high. The same board members who'd witnessed Dylan's downfall now sat watching us with keen interest. His empty chair stood as a reminder of how quickly fortunes could change. "Good morning," Caroline began, her voice steady. "Today we're presenting our vision for the company's future." I clicked to the first slide, starting with a complete digital transformation of our client services. The presentation flowed smoothly between us, each picking up where the other left off. When we finished, the room stayed silent for a long moment. "Impressive," Dylan's father spoke first, surprising everyone, particularly the cybersecurity initiatives, though I suppose recent events have shown how necessary those are. "Speaking of recent events," another board member leaned forward, "how do we know you two won't bring more drama to the company?" "Fair question." I met his gaze. "What happened with Dylan was about protecting our family, both personal and professional. Every action we took was to expose genuine threats to this company." "And it worked," Caroline added. "The audit revealed he'd embezzled over $2 million. Our actions saved this company from a much bigger scandal." "By creating a smaller one?" someone muttered. "No," Dad stood. "By showing initiative, resourcefulness, and an unwavering commitment to truth. Exactly the qualities we need in leadership." Mom chose that moment to enter, carrying a stack of folders. "The final audit reports," she announced, distributing them, "including the recovery plan my daughters developed." The board members flipped through the documents, eyebrows raising at the detailed analysis. "This is thorough," Dylan's father admitted. "We protect what's ours," I said simply. "And we're very good at it," Caroline finished. The vote was unanimous. Later, celebrating in Dad's office, Mom pulled out a familiar envelope. "Remember this?" She handed it to me. I recognized it immediately. The envelope that had started everything, containing those first screenshots of Dylan's messages. "Keep it," Mom said, as a reminder that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Like finding out your sister is actually your best ally? Caroline bumped my shoulder. "Or discovering your daughters are smarter than you gave them credit for," Dad added, pouring champagne. "Or learning that karma works better with a good strategy and better timing," I grinned. A knock interrupted us. Amanda poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but you might want to see this." She held up her phone. Rosalie just posted her tell-all interview. We crowded around the screen, watching Rosalie detail every aspect of Dylan's schemes. The comment section was exploding. "Well," Mom sighed, "at least we're not the ones creating drama this time." "No," Caroline smiled. "We're just the ones who started it." "And finished it," I added. "To new beginnings," Dad raised his glass. "And Sister Acts." Caroline clinked her glass against mine. "Speaking of acts," Amanda scrolled through her phone. "That video of your anniversary party revenge just hit 10 million views. You're officially viral sensations." "Great," I groaned. "Just what every corporate executive wants on their resume." "Actually," Mom's eyes twinkled, "the marketing department wants to discuss your social media presence. Apparently you've made our family business relevant to millennials." We all laughed, but there was truth there. Everything had changed. Our relationships, our roles, our futures. The shadow I'd lived in had become a spotlight we shared, and the sister I'd envied had become my closest ally. "You know what this means?" Caroline nudged me. "What?" "Next board meeting, we're definitely wearing matching outfits." "As long as they're not emerald green?" Everyone finished in unison. Looking around at my family, Mom finally seeing me clearly, Dad trusting us with his legacy, and Caroline standing beside me as an equal, I realized something profound. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about getting revenge or proving yourself. Sometimes it's about discovering that what you wanted all along was right there, waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. "To the Townsend sisters," Amanda raised her glass. "To family," Mom and Dad echoed. "To us," Caroline whispered, linking her arm through mine. "To us," I agreed, knowing that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Because that's what sisters do. Especially sisters who've learned that the best revenge isn't just living well, it's living well together.
The sound of my mother-in-law's voice drifted up the stairs, sharp and critical as ever. She's up there again, probably crying herself to sleep. How is she going to raise these children properly if she can't even pull herself together? I pressed my palms against my eyes, willing the tears to stop. My name is Natasha, and 3 weeks ago, I lost my husband Taylor to a sudden heart attack. Now, I was losing my home to his mother. "Mom, I can hear you," my daughter Athena called from her room, "and I'm pretty sure Mom can too." The floorboards creaked as Ellie climbed the stairs. "I'm only trying to help, dear. Someone needs to maintain order in this house." I opened my bedroom door before she could reach it. "I've got everything under control, Ellie. The kids are doing their homework, dinner's in the oven, and I've already called the insurance company about Taylor's policy." She stood there in her perfectly pressed blouse, lips pursed. "Darling, you look exhausted. Why don't you let me handle things? I raised Taylor on my own after all." "I appreciate the offer, but—" "Mom!" Nasir's voice rang out from downstairs. "The timer's beeping." I moved to head downstairs, but Ellie blocked my path. "I'll take care of it. You should rest." Before I could protest, she was already halfway down the stairs. I followed her to the kitchen, where my 10-year-old son was standing by the oven. "Grandma, Mom always lets me help set the table," Nasir said, reaching for the plates. "Not tonight, dear. These dishes are too expensive to risk breaking. Go wash up for dinner." I watched my son's face fall. "Ellie, Those are our everyday plates. Nasir knows how to. Natasha, she cut me off, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes steel-cold. I know you mean well, but children need structure, especially now. Taylor would want them raised properly. My phone buzzed, a text from my best friend Tabitha. How's it going with the dragon lady? I typed back quickly. She's taken over everything. I can barely breathe. Want me to come over? I'll bring wine. Not tonight. She's already commented twice about my drinking problem, aka the one glass of wine I had with dinner yesterday. I looked up to find Ellie rearranging my spice rack. These should be alphabetized, she muttered. Really, Natasha, how did you ever find anything? Taylor never had trouble finding the spices, I said quietly. She froze for a moment, then continued her reorganizing. Well, Taylor was accommodating. Too accommodating sometimes. The front door opened, and Athena came downstairs, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Mom, can I go to Sophie's house to study? Before I could answer, Ellie stepped in. Absolutely not. It's a school night. But Mom always lets me study at Sophie's on Wednesdays. Athena protested, looking at me pleadingly. I took a deep breath. Athena's right, Ellie. Sophie's mother supervises their study sessions, and she's always home by 8. Things are different now, Ellie said firmly. The children need stability, not gallivanting around the neighborhood. I'm not gallivanting? Athena's voice cracked. I'm trying to maintain my grades like Dad would want. The kitchen fell silent. Ellie moved to hug Athena, but my daughter backed away, tears in her eyes. I hate this. I hate that Dad's gone, and I hate that everything's different. She ran upstairs, her door slamming moments later. Nasir appeared in the doorway, his young face worried. Is Athena okay? Ellie sighed dramatically. See what happens when there's no proper authority? Children need a firm hand, Natasha. Taylor understood that. I gripped the counter, my knuckles white. Taylor understood a lot of things. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at my mother-in-law, really looked at her. She'd moved into our house the day after the funeral, rearranging furniture, changing routines, criticizing every decision I made, and I'd let her, too numb with grief to fight back. But watching my children's world shrink under her rules, seeing their spirits dim day by day, something inside me was waking up. Nothing, I said finally. I'm going to check on Athena. As I climbed the stairs, I heard Ellie's voice behind me. This is exactly why I need to be here. That poor woman can't even handle a simple teenage outburst. I paused on the landing, my hand trailing along the wall where Taylor and I had hung our family photos. My fingers brushed against a small nick in the wood, a secret mark Taylor had made years ago, though he never told me why. Something about that tiny imperfection in the perfect walls of Ellie's new domain made me smile. Taylor had his secrets, his quiet acts of rebellion. Maybe it was time I found my own. Absolutely not. Ellie's voice rang through the kitchen the next morning. No child of mine ever needed a cell phone at 13, and neither does Athena. She's not your child, I said, handing Athena her lunch bag. And Taylor and I already agreed she could have one for her birthday next week. Athena stood frozen between us, her eyes darting back and forth like she was watching a tennis match. Plans change, Ellie said, adjusting her pearl necklace. In times of grief, children need fewer distractions, not more. Mom, Athena whispered. Dad promised. The hurt in her voice made my chest tight. Before I could respond, Ellie stepped forward. Your father isn't here anymore, dear. Now, go get your brother. You'll be late for school. As soon as Athena left the kitchen, I turned to Ellie. You can't keep overruling me like this. I'm doing what's best for this family. Someone has to maintain standards. She opened the fridge, grimacing. Really, Natasha, Store-bought orange juice? What happened to fresh squeezed? My phone buzzed. Tabitha again. Coffee? You sound like you need rescue. Can't, I texted back. Queen Elizabeth is monitoring my caffeine intake. That's it, Tabitha replied. I'm coming over. 20 minutes later, after the kids had left for school, the doorbell rang. Tabitha burst in before I could even reach it, her red curls wild and her arms full of coffee cups. Morning, Ellie, she called out cheerfully. Hope you don't mind, but Natasha and I have some wedding planning to discuss. Ellie appeared in the doorway, frowning. Wedding planning? My sister's wedding, Tabitha explained smoothly. Natasha's helping with the arrangements. You know how good she is at organizing events. Is she? Ellie's tone dripped with doubt. Well, don't let me interrupt. I need to reorganize the linen closet anyway. Someone's been folding the towels incorrectly. As soon as Ellie disappeared upstairs, Tabitha grabbed my arm and pulled me onto the porch. Okay, spill. How bad is it? She's taken over everything, Tab. The kids' schedules, the meals, even the damn thermostat. Yesterday, she threw out all my scented candles because they were fire hazards. The ones Taylor got you for your anniversary? I nodded, fighting back tears. She says she's helping, but it feels like she's trying to erase me from my own home. So fight back. How? She's Taylor's mother. The kids need her. The kids need their mom, Tabitha said firmly. Their real mom, not Grandma Dictator. A crash from inside made us both jump. We rushed back in to find Nasir standing in the living room, a broken picture frame at his feet. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I was just trying to dust it like Grandma said. It's okay, sweetheart, I started, but Ellie was already there, tutting disapprovingly. This is what happens when children aren't properly supervised, she said, sweeping up the glass. From now on, no touching the family photos. But that's my favorite picture of Dad, Nasir protested. Then you should have been more careful with it, shouldn't you? I watched my son's lower lip tremble, and something inside me snapped. That's enough, Ellie. Nasir, go get ready for soccer practice. I'll fix the frame later. Soccer? Ellie straightened up. Oh, I canceled that. He needs to focus on his studies. You what? I stared at her in disbelief. Taylor coached that team. Nasir loves soccer. Taylor isn't here to coach anymore, is he? Her words hit like a slap. The boy needs structure, not sports. Tabitha stepped forward, her face flushed. You know what? I just remembered, Natasha, you still have that key Taylor gave you, right? The one for his study? I froze. The key. In all the chaos of the past weeks, I'd forgotten about it. What key? Ellie demanded. Nothing, I said quickly. Just something Taylor mentioned before. But I remembered now. The small brass key he'd pressed into my hand that last morning, saying he had something important to show me later. We never got that later. Well, Tabitha said brightly, I should go. Thanks for the wedding planning help, Nat. As she hugged me goodbye, she whispered, Find that key. That night, after everyone was asleep, I stood in my closet, running my fingers along the jewelry box where I'd stored the key. It was still there, small and unremarkable, but suddenly it felt like the most important object in the world. Whatever Taylor had wanted to show me was in his study, the one room Ellie hadn't dared to touch yet. Maybe, just maybe, it held the answers I needed. I clutched the key tightly, my heart pounding. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I would find out what my husband had left behind. The study door creaked as I turned the key, making me wince. It was 2 a.m., and the last thing I needed was Ellie catching me here. The room smelled like Taylor, his cologne, old books, and the leather of his chair. My phone's flashlight revealed the room exactly as he'd left it. His coffee mug still sat on the desk, a faint ring stained into the wood beneath it. I ran my fingers across his desk calendar, stopped forever on the day he died. "What did you want me to find?" I whispered. The beam of my flashlight caught something unusual, a corner of paper sticking out from behind the large family portrait on the wall. My hands trembled as I lifted the frame. There it was, a manila envelope with my name written in Taylor's familiar scrawl. "Mom?" I nearly dropped the envelope. Athena stood in the doorway, her phone providing a soft glow. "Honey, you should be in bed." I heard the door. She stepped inside, closing it quietly behind her. "What are you doing in Dad's study?" I held up the envelope. "Finding answers, I hope." She settled next to me on the leather couch, and I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter and several documents. "Dear Natasha," I read aloud, my voice barely a whisper. "If you're reading this, something's happened to me. I've been having chest pains lately, and though I don't want to worry you, I need to make sure you're protected." Athena gripped my arm. I continued reading. "Mom will try to take control. She always has. She did it when I was growing up. She tried it when we got married, and she'll definitely try it now. Don't let her. You're stronger than she thinks, stronger than even you know." "Dad knew," Athena whispered. "He knew what Grandma would do." I shuffled through the other papers, legal documents, bank statements, and photographs. Old ones, showing a younger Ellie with Taylor as a teenager. In every photo, she was directing, positioning, controlling. "There's more," I said, turning back to the letter. "I've set everything up in your name, the house, the accounts, everything. Mom has no legal right to make decisions for our family. I know she'll claim it's for the best, that she's helping, but don't believe it. She nearly destroyed my first marriage with her interference. I won't let her do the same to you and the kids." "Dad was married before?" Athena's eyes widened. "Briefly in college," I said, remembering. "He never talked about it much." The letter continued. "I've included proof of everything. Her manipulation, her lies, even the way she drove Sarah away. Use it if you have to. The kids need their mother, their real mother, not someone trying to remake them in her image." "You need to show this to Grandma," Athena said firmly. I shook my head. "It's not that simple." "Why not? Dad wanted you to stand up to her. He said you're stronger than she thinks." A floorboard creaked in the hallway. We both froze. "Natasha," Ellie's voice called out. "Is someone in Taylor's study?" I quickly shoved the envelope under a couch cushion. "Just me, Ellie. Couldn't sleep." The door opened. Ellie stood there in her silk robe, frowning. "This room should be left as it is, as a memorial. It's disrespectful to—" "To what?" I interrupted, standing up. "To remember my husband, to seek comfort in the space where he spent so much time." "Mom," Athena added, "Dad wouldn't want his study to be a shrine. He'd want us to use it to remember him living, not—" "Go to bed, Athena," Ellie snapped. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually," I said, my voice stronger than I'd felt in weeks, "it concerns all of us. This is our home, our family." "I am the matriarch of this family," Ellie declared. Taylor expected me to lead this family," I cut in, "and it's time I started doing exactly that." Ellie's face paled. "What are you talking about?" "Go to bed, honey," I told Athena, who squeezed my hand before leaving. Once she was gone, I faced my mother-in-law. "Things are going to change, Ellie, starting tomorrow." "Is that a threat?" "No," I said calmly. "It's a promise. To my husband, to my children, and to myself." She stared at me for a long moment before turning away. "We'll discuss this in the morning, when you're thinking more clearly." After she left, I retrieved the envelope and held it close. Taylor had known what would happen, known what I would need. He'd prepared everything, given me all the tools. Now I just had to be brave enough to use them. I pulled out my phone and texted Tabitha, "Found the key to everything. Meeting tomorrow?" Her response was immediate. "Finally, my place, 10 a.m. Time to take back your life, girl." Looking around Taylor's study one last time, I smiled. The war for our family was about to begin. "She did what?" Tabitha nearly spilled her coffee as I showed her the documents spread across her kitchen table. Apparently, Ellie drove Taylor's first wife away by convincing everyone the poor woman was unstable. I pointed to an old letter. Sarah wrote this to Taylor years later, explaining everything. And Taylor kept it all this time? Tabitha shook her head in disbelief. He knew his mother better than anyone. I pulled out my phone, showing her a text from Reuben, Taylor's childhood friend. "I reached out to Reuben this morning. He's willing to meet with us." The doorbell rang and Reuben entered, his lawyer's briefcase in hand. "Ladies," he said, settling into a chair, "I've been waiting for this conversation for weeks." "You knew about all this?" I asked. "I watched Ellie destroy Taylor's first marriage. When he met you, he was determined not to let history repeat itself." Reuben pulled out some papers. "These are copies of everything Taylor set up legally. The house, accounts, even the kids' trust funds. They're all in your name, Natasha." "So Ellie has no actual power here?" Tabitha asked. "None," Reuben smiled. "She's a guest in your home, nothing more." My phone buzzed. Nasir's school. "Hello? Mrs. Richardson, this is Principal Morris. Your mother-in-law just called to pull Nasir out of soccer permanently. We needed to confirm this with you." I gripped the phone tighter. "She did what?" "She said it was a family decision." It absolutely was not. Nasir stays on the team. In fact, I'm coming to sign him up for the summer program too. After hanging up, I turned to my friends. "She's already making moves. I need to start pushing back." "Start small," Reuben advised. "Reclaim your space bit by bit." That afternoon, I drove to the store and bought new scented candles, the same ones Taylor always got me. When I got home, Ellie was reorganizing the kitchen again. "What are those?" she demanded, eyeing the shopping bag. "Candles, for my house." I set them out on the counter deliberately. The kids love the vanilla scent. Reminds them of their dad. "I told you those are fire hazards." "In my house," I interrupted, "we use candles, just like we did when Taylor was alive." Her face reddened. "I'm only trying to protect this family." "By canceling Nasir's soccer, the sport his father coached?" She froze. "How did you—" "I'm his mother, Ellie. The school checks with me, not you." The front door opened, and Athena walked in with Nasir. "Mom," Nasir ran to me. "Is it true? Can I still play soccer?" "Of course, baby." I hugged him tight. "In fact, you're joining the summer league too." "But Grandma said—" "Grandma made a mistake," I said firmly, meeting Ellie's eyes. "She forgot to check with me first." "This is ridiculous," Ellie sputtered. "Taylor would never—" "Actually," I pulled out my phone, showing her a video I'd found in Taylor's study, him coaching Nasir's team, both of them laughing. "This is exactly what Taylor would want." Ellie stormed upstairs, and I heard her door slam. Athena grinned. "Mom, that was awesome." My phone buzzed with a text from Tabitha. "How's Operation Take Back going?" "Just won the first battle," I replied. "Soccer stays, candles are back." Queen Elizabeth is not amused. Later that night, while the kids did homework, I found a crumpled paper in the recycling bin, a draft of Taylor's letter that Ellie must have discovered while snooping. My heart raced as I smoothed it out. How much had she read? The sound of her heels on the stairs answered my question. Her face was composed, but her eyes were cold. "I always wondered why Taylor changed his will that last year," she said. "Now I know. He turned my own son against me." No, Ellie, you did that yourself. I made him successful, gave him structure, guidance. You controlled him, and now you're trying to control his children. She stepped closer. You have no idea what it takes to raise children properly. You're too soft, too permissive, just like Sarah was. The difference is, I stood my ground. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home, my family, and my rules. We'll see about that. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Natasha, I've invited some old family friends over for dinner tomorrow. Do try to have the house presentable. As her footsteps faded, I texted Reuben. She found a draft of the letter. Time to call in reinforcements? His response was immediate. On it. Tell Tabitha to contact Dexter from the community board. Time to show Ellie what real family support looks like. I smiled, lighting one of my new candles. The vanilla scent filled the air, and for the first time in weeks, I felt truly at home. Ellie invited how many people? Tabitha paced my kitchen the next morning, her heels clicking against the tile. 12, I said, checking my phone. All her old country club friends. She's trying to embarrass me in front of the community. Well, she's in for a surprise. Tabitha grinned. Dexter's already called everyone who matters. Trust me, this dinner party won't go how she expects. The doorbell rang. Dexter, the community board president, stood there with his wife Maria. Natasha, he said warmly, we came early to help. The dinner's not until 6, I started, but Maria was already rolling up her sleeves. Honey, we're not here for Ellie's dinner. We're here for yours. Over the next few hours, people streamed in through the back door. Neighbors, parents from the kids' school, Taylor's old soccer team families. Each brought food, supplies, and most importantly, support. Mom? Nasir appeared in the kitchen. Why is everyone here? Because they care about us, I said, hugging him. Where's your grandmother? Still upstairs, getting ready. She said we need to look perfect for her friends. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Reuben carrying a thick folder. Everything's set, he whispered. Just say the word. At exactly 6, Ellie descended the stairs in her finest dress, stopping short at the sight of dozens of people filling our home. What is this? She demanded. I specifically invited your friends? I gestured to the front door, where her country club associates were arriving. They're welcome too, the more the merrier. This is completely inappropriate. Actually, Dexter stepped forward. This is exactly appropriate. This community supports Natasha and these children. We always have. And who are you two? He's the community board president, Maria cut in. The same board that Taylor worked with to establish the youth soccer program you tried to shut down. Ellie's face reddened. I was only thinking of what's best for who? I asked quietly. For Nasir, who lost both his father and his favorite sport? For Athena, who can't even study with her friends anymore? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I raised my voice slightly, making sure everyone could hear. This is our home. These are our neighbors, our friends, our support system. Taylor knew that. It's why he chose this community. Taylor chose this community because I suggested it, Ellie snapped. Actually, Reuben stepped forward. Taylor chose it because it was far enough from you to give his family space to breathe. A murmur went through the crowd. Ellie's country club friends shifted uncomfortably. Is that true, Ellie? One of them asked. Did your son really move here to get away from you? Of course not. I only ever wanted what was best. Like you did with Sarah? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Taylor's first wife? The room went silent. Ellie's face turned pale. That was different, she whispered. She wasn't right for him. No, I said firmly. You decided she wasn't right for him. Just like you've decided I'm not right for these kids. I never. Mom? Athena appeared at my side. I found this in the study. She held up a photo album. It's full of pictures of Dad with Sarah. They looked happy, until suddenly she's not in any more pictures. Ellie reached for the album, but Athena pulled back. There's writing on the back of some photos, my daughter continued. Sarah wrote about how much she loved Dad, but how she couldn't handle the constant criticism, the manipulation, the control. Enough! Ellie's voice cracked. This is a private family matter. You're right, I agreed. So let's handle it like family. These people? I gestured to the crowd. They're our family too. They've been here for us since Taylor died. Where were your country club friends? One by one, Ellie's invited guests made their excuses and left, leaving her standing alone in a sea of our supporters. This isn't over, she said, but her voice lacked its usual authority. Actually, Reuben stepped forward again. It is. Natasha has legal documentation of everything. The house, the accounts, even Taylor's explicit wishes for his family's future. Would you like me to share those details with everyone? Ellie looked around the room, finally seeing what she was up against. Not just me, but an entire community ready to stand with us. I think, she said stiffly, I need to lie down. As she climbed the stairs, Tabitha squeezed my hand. Round one goes to us. Round one? Maria laughed. Honey, this was a knockout. But watching Ellie's defeated retreat, I knew better. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She'd regroup, replan, and come back fighting. But this time, I'd be ready. The morning after the dinner party, Ellie was nowhere to be found. Instead, a formal invitation sat on the kitchen counter. Family meeting, 2 p.m., Taylor's old law firm. It's a power play, Reuben said when I called him. She's trying to intimidate you with the setting. Should I be worried? Bring the letter and documents. And Natasha, bring the kids too. It's time they understood everything. At 1:55 p.m., we walked into the law firm's conference room. Ellie sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 lawyers and her friend Serenity from the country club. The children shouldn't be here, Ellie said immediately. They're exactly where they need to be, I replied, taking the seat opposite her. Reuben sat beside me, placing his briefcase on the table. I've called this meeting, Ellie began, because recent events have made it clear that this family is in crisis. As the matriarch, You're not the matriarch, Athena interrupted. Mom is. Ellie's lawyer cleared his throat. We have concerns about the children's welfare. Mrs. Richardson has documented several instances of questionable parenting decisions. Like what? I demanded. Serenity pulled out a notebook. Allowing unsupervised study sessions, dangerous sports activities, inappropriate social media access. You mean letting me study with Sophie? Athena's voice shook with anger. Or letting Nasir play the sport Dad loved? Your father would want. Don't. Nasir spoke up for the first time. Don't tell us what Dad would want. You didn't even come to his games. Ellie's face hardened. I'm trying to protect you from what? I pulled out Taylor's letter. From turning out like their father? The son you tried to control so much he moved across the city to escape you? That letter is a forgery, Ellie snapped. Really? Reuben opened his briefcase. I have the original here, with Taylor's notarized signature, along with some interesting documents about Sarah. The lawyers exchanged glances. Serenity shifted uncomfortably. Who's Sarah? Nasir asked. Your father's first wife, I said gently. The one your grandmother drove away with false accusations and manipulation. That's slander. Ellie stood up. I won't sit here and... Sit down, Mom. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Sarah herself stood there, looking elegant in a business suit. They deserve to know the truth. Ellie fell back into her chair. How dare you come here? I invited her, Reuben said. As Taylor's first wife, she has relevant testimony about your pattern of behavior. Sarah walked to the table. I love Taylor. We were happy until his mother started spreading rumors about my mental health, my faithfulness, even my ability to have children. You were wrong for him, Ellie insisted. No, Sarah's voice was firm. I was just wrong for you. I wasn't controllable enough, moldable enough, so you destroyed me, but I won't let you destroy this family too. Is that why Dad kept all those pictures? Athena asked Sarah. To remember what Grandma did? Sarah nodded. Taylor never forgave himself for not standing up to her then. That's why he prepared everything for your mom, to make sure history wouldn't repeat itself. Ellie's lawyers were whispering urgently. Finally, one spoke up. Mrs. Richardson, given this new evidence, we recommend— Fire them, Ellie cut in. All of them. This meeting is over. No, I stood up. This meeting is exactly what we needed. The kids needed to see the truth. They needed to understand why their father set things up the way he did. I'm their grandmother. I have rights. You have privileges, Reuben corrected. Privileges that can be revoked. Are you threatening me? No, I said quietly. I'm giving you a choice. Either accept that this is my family to lead or leave. Taylor made his wishes clear. I won't let you do to my children what you did to him. The room fell silent. Nasir reached for my hand under the table. I choose my family, he said firmly. Me too, Athena added. Ellie looked around the room, at her dismissed lawyers, at Sarah's steady gaze, at her grandchildren's determined faces. For the first time, I saw something new in her expression. Fear. You can't just cut me out, she whispered. No one's cutting you out, I said, but things will be different now. My house, my rules, my family. You can be part of that, but only on those terms. She stood slowly, gathering her purse. I need time to think. As she walked out, Sarah touched my arm. You did what I couldn't. You stood up to her. We all did, I said, hugging my children close. Together. Watching Ellie's retreating figure through the glass walls, I felt no triumph, only relief. The truth was finally out, and with it, the power she'd held over us for so long. Now we just had to see what she'd do next. 3 days passed without a word from Ellie. Her bedroom door remained closed, meals untouched outside it. The silence felt like the calm before a storm. She's planning something, Tabitha warned over coffee. Women like Ellie don't just give up. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Dexter. Heads up, Ellie's at the community center with her country club friends. They're calling an emergency board meeting. Now? I grabbed my keys. Watch the kids, Tab. Go, show her what you're made of. I arrived at the community center to find the parking lot full. Inside, Ellie stood at the podium, perfectly composed in her designer suit. And as a concerned grandmother, I must bring attention to the declining standards in our community. Single mothers without proper support systems. You mean widows whose mother-in-laws try to steal their children? I called out, walking down the aisle. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ellie's fingers tightened on the podium. Natasha, this is a closed meeting. About my family? I don't think so. I turned to face the crowd. You all knew Taylor. He coached your kids, helped with community projects, believed in making this place better for everyone. Exactly, Ellie jumped in. And now his legacy is right here. I pulled out my phone, playing a video I'd found in his study. Taylor's face filled the screen, recorded just weeks before his death. Hey, beautiful. His voice filled the room. If you're watching this, I guess those chest pains meant something after all. I need you to know something. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You gave me the strength to break free from Mom's control, to be my own person. Ellie tried to speak, but Dexter shushed her. The video continued. I've watched you raise our kids with love. not rules. With guidance, not control. You're everything I wished my mother could have been. Tears streamed down my face as Taylor's image smiled. Don't let her do to our family what she did to mine. The house, the accounts, everything's yours. But more importantly, the kids are yours to raise. You're their mother, and you're amazing at it. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Well, Serenity stood up. I think we've heard enough. No, a new voice called out. Sarah walked in, carrying a stack of papers. You haven't heard everything yet. This is ridiculous, Ellie sputtered. She has no right. I have every right. Sarah passed out documents to the board members. These are the complaints filed against Ellie 20 years ago. Harassment, defamation, even stalking. The same patterns she's showing now. Those charges were dropped, Ellie protested. Because Taylor begged me to, Sarah replied. He didn't want to believe his mother could be so cruel, but he learned. That's why he protected his new family from you. Dexter stood up. I move to dismiss this emergency meeting. All in favor? Hands shot up across the room. Ellie's supporters shrank in their seats. Furthermore, Dexter continued, I move to formally recognize Natasha as the head of the Richardson family and their rightful representative on all community matters. More hands raised. Ellie's face turned red. You can't do this, she hissed. I am still a guest in my house, I finished, and not a very good one. The crowd began to disperse. Ellie's friends hurried past her without meeting her eyes. Finally, only Ellie, Sarah, and I remained. You've ruined everything, Ellie whispered. No, Sarah said gently. You did that yourself. 20 years ago with me and now with Natasha. The difference is she's stronger than I was. What happens now? Ellie asked, her voice small. That depends on you. I stepped closer. You can either accept that things have changed and try to be the grandmother our children deserve, or you can leave. But the controlling, the manipulation, it stops now. They're my family too. Then prove it, not by ruling them, but by loving them. Can you do that? She looked between us, the woman she'd driven away and the woman who'd stood her ground. I don't know how, she admitted finally. Then maybe it's time to learn, Sarah suggested, before you lose another family. My phone buzzed, a text from Athena. Is Grandma coming home? I showed Ellie the message. Well, are you ready to try things our way? She wiped her eyes, smearing expensive mascara. I need time. Take it, I said. But remember, when you come back, it's to our rules, our family, our way. As she walked out, Sarah squeezed my hand. You did it. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us together. Looking around the empty community center where Taylor had spent so many happy hours, I felt his presence stronger than ever. He'd given me the tools, but I'd found the strength. Now it was time to go home and tell our children that the war was finally over. Mom, Grandma's here. Nasir's voice carried from the front door. I looked up from Taylor's desk, now my desk, in the study to see Ellie standing in the doorway, a small suitcase at her feet. The 30 days are up, she said quietly. I'd like to come home, if the offer still stands. I gestured to the chair across from me. We should talk first. She sat down, her usual perfect posture slightly wilted. I've been seeing a therapist, Dr. Matthews. She's helping me understand patterns I never noticed before. Good, that was our condition. I know. She twisted her wedding ring. She showed me how I've been recreating my own mother's controlling behavior. I didn't want to believe it, but Grandma, Athena appeared behind her. You're just in time. Mom's letting me redecorate my room. Want to help pick colors? Ellie's hand twitched, and I could see her fighting the urge to take control. Instead, she asked, What colors are you considering? Black and purple. I see. Ellie caught my eye, took a deep breath. It's your room, dear. What matters is that you love it. Athena's jaw dropped. Mom, what did you do with the real grandma? We all laughed, breaking the tension. Why don't you show her your design ideas? I suggested. As they left, I heard Ellie asking questions instead of giving orders. A small change, but significant. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How's it going? She's trying, I replied. Really trying. The doorbell rang. Tabitha burst in with takeout bags. Family dinner! I brought everyone's favorites, even your weird seaweed snacks, Ellie. You remembered? Ellie looked touched. Course I did. Your family. Difficult, sometimes impossible family, but still family. We gathered around the dinner table. No formal dining room, no strict seating arrangement. Nasir had soccer dirt on his knees. Athena's hair was wild from dance practice, and for once, Ellie didn't comment on either. Before we eat, she said suddenly, I have something for everyone. She pulled out a stack of envelopes. Letters. Dr. Matthews suggested I write down things I should have said long ago. She handed them out, one to each of us, plus one for Sarah and one addressed to Taylor. That last one she placed in the center of the table. You don't have to read them now, she added quickly, or ever if you don't want to, but I needed to write them. Nasir opened his immediately. His eyes widened. Grandma, you're coming to my soccer games? If you want me to. She smiled tentatively. Your father loved coaching you. I should have seen that. Athena read hers next, tears filling her eyes. She got up and hugged Ellie, their first real hug since Taylor died. I opened mine last. Natasha, I owe you the biggest apology. You didn't just lose your husband. You lost your partner, your children's father, your future as you planned it. Instead of helping, I tried to take what little you had left. I was wrong. Taylor chose well when he chose you. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. The guest room is made up, I said, closing the letter. Same rules as before, respect boundaries, ask, don't tell, and therapy continues. Agreed. Ellie reached for the letter to Taylor. This one, I'd like to put it in his study, where it belongs. Together, we walked to the study. Photos lined the walls, old ones of Taylor and Sarah, newer ones of our family, recent ones of soccer games and dance recitals. A timeline of love, loss, and healing. He would be proud, Ellie said softly, of all of us. Even you? Especially me, I hope. It's not easy admitting you've been wrong for so long. From downstairs, Tabitha called. Food's getting cold, and Nasir's eyeing the last spring roll. Save me one, I called back. To Ellie, I added, welcome home, for real this time. As we headed downstairs, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the window. Mother and daughter-in-law, both changed by loss, both healing through love. Not perfect, but family. Taylor's letter sat on his desk, next to the vanilla candle I'd lit earlier. Its flame flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper, this is what I wanted all along. Not perfect harmony, but real love. Not strict control, but genuine connection. Mom, Athena called. Nasir's telling Grandma about his goal last week, and he's totally exaggerating. Am not, Nasir protested. Are too. Ellie caught my eye and smiled. A real smile, not her usual practiced one. Shall we go referee? No, I said, returning her smile. Let's just go listen. Sometimes that's all family needs to do. Together, we rejoined our beautifully imperfect family, leaving Taylor's study behind but carrying his love with us, always.
I take a deep breath as I step out of the car, my hand tightly clasped in Ethan's. The house looms before us, a stark reminder of the years of silence that stretch between Ethan and his father. I squeeze Ethan's hand, offering a reassuring smile. "It's going to be okay," I whisper, though the words feel hollow even to my own ears. Ethan nods, his jaw clenched tight. "Let's just get this over with," he mutters, striding towards the front door. I follow, my heart pounding in my chest as Ethan raises his hand to knock. The door swings open, revealing a man I've only seen in faded photographs. Frank, Ethan's father, stands before us, his face etched with lines of age and bitterness. "Ethan," he says, his voice gruff. "It's been a long time." "Dad," Ethan replies, his tone carefully neutral. "This is Zara, my wife." Frank's gaze shifts to me, his eyes narrowing slightly. "A pleasure," he says, though his tone suggests otherwise. We step inside, the house feeling strangely cold despite the warm summer day. Frank leads us to the living room, gesturing for us to sit. I perch on the edge of the couch, my hands folded tightly in my lap. "So," Frank begins, leaning back in his armchair, "what brings you here after all these years?" Ethan clears his throat, his eyes meeting mine briefly before he speaks. "Zara thought it was time we tried to mend things between us. For the sake of family." Frank scoffs, shaking his head. "Family? You haven't been much of a family to me, boy." I bristle at his words, but Ethan remains calm. "I know we've had our differences, Dad, but I'm here now, aren't I?" Frank grunts, his gaze shifting to the window. "I suppose you are." The conversation lulls, the tension thick in the air. I clear my throat, desperate to break the silence. "Ethan tells me you used to work in sales, Frank. What was that like?" Frank's eyes snap back to me, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "It was a job," he says shortly. "Nothing more, nothing less." I nod, sensing that further questions won't be welcomed. We sit in awkward silence for a few more moments before Ethan stands abruptly. "We should get going," he says, his voice strained. "It's a long drive back." Frank nods, rising slowly from his chair. "Don't be a stranger," he says, though his words lack sincerity. We say our goodbyes, the door closing behind us with a heavy thud. As we walk back to the car, I can't shake the feeling that something is off. Frank's demeanor, his cold reception, it all feels wrong somehow. A month later, the phone rings. It's Frank, his voice tinged with desperation. "I need your help," he says, his words tumbling out in a rush. "I'm sick, and I can't take care of myself anymore. I need to move in with you and Ethan." I freeze, the phone nearly slipping from my grasp. "Move in with us?" After the way he treated Ethan at our visit, I glance at Ethan, seeing the conflicted emotions playing across his face. "We'll have to discuss it," I say finally, my voice trembling slightly. "Can we call you back?" Frank agrees, and I hang up the phone, my mind reeling. I turn to Ethan, my heart sinking at the look of resignation on his face. "He's my father," Ethan says softly. "I can't turn him away." I nod, knowing that Ethan's sense of duty will always win out in the end. But as we begin to make plans for Frank's arrival, I can't shake the feeling that we're making a terrible mistake. The day Frank moves in, I feel a sense of unease that I can't quite shake. Ethan and I help him settle into the guest room, arranging his few belongings and making sure he's comfortable. At first, things seem to be going smoothly. Frank is polite, even charming at times, and I start to think that maybe my initial reservations were unfounded. But as the weeks pass, I begin to notice little things that set off alarm bells in my head. Frank starts making offhand comments about money, hinting at the financial strain he's under. One evening, over dinner, he finally comes out with it. "I hate to ask," he says, his eyes downcast, "but I'm in a bit of a bind. My late wife, she left me with some significant gambling debts. I don't know how I'm going to pay them off." Ethan's fork clatters to his plate, his face etched with concern. "Dad, why didn't you say something sooner? We could have helped." Frank shakes his head, a wry smile on his lips. "I didn't want to be a burden, but now, living here with you, I thought maybe." He trails off, letting the implication hang in the air. I glance at Ethan, seeing the wheels turning in his head. "We can cover the debts," Ethan says finally, "and you can stay here with us, save on living costs. It's the least we can do." I open my mouth to protest, but the words die on my lips. How can I argue with Ethan's generosity, his desire to help his father? So I nod, forcing a smile onto my face. "Of course," I say, "we're family after all." Frank's face breaks into a grin, and he reaches across the table to clasp Ethan's hand. "Thank you, son. You don't know how much this means to me." But as I watch the exchange, I can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. There's a glint in Frank's eye, a calculating edge to his smile that makes my skin crawl. The next few weeks are a blur of financial discussions and budget adjustments. Ethan insists on paying off Frank's debts in full, even though it means dipping into our savings. I try to voice my concerns, but Ethan waves them away. "He's my father, Zara," he says, his voice firm. "I can't just turn my back on him." I nod, swallowing my objections. But as the days pass, I start to notice a change in Ethan. He seems distracted, distant, as if he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. One evening, he comes home late from work, his face drawn and tired. I'm in the kitchen, preparing dinner, when he walks in and slumps into a chair. "I quit my job today," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. I nearly drop the spoon I'm holding, my heart leaping into my throat. "What? Why?" Ethan runs a hand through his hair, his eyes meeting mine. "I want to start a nonprofit, Zara. I want to make a difference in the world." I stare at him, my mind reeling. A nonprofit? Now, when we're already stretched thin financially? But before I can voice my concerns, Frank walks into the kitchen, his face twisted into a scowl. "A nonprofit?" he sneers, his voice dripping with disdain. "How are you going to support us on that, boy? You think your little dream is more important than taking care of your family?" Ethan flinches as if he's been slapped, his face flushing with shame. "I just thought—" "You thought wrong," Frank snaps, cutting him off. "You're being selfish, Ethan. You can't afford to chase your dreams when you have responsibilities." I watch as Ethan seems to shrink before my eyes, his shoulders slumping in defeat. And in that moment, I realize the truth. Frank isn't here because he needs our help. He's here to manipulate us, to bleed us dry and break us down, and I'll be damned if I let him get away with it. The days turn into weeks, and Frank's presence in our home becomes increasingly suffocating. He seems to take pleasure in belittling Ethan at every turn, constantly reminding him of the financial strain his nonprofit is putting on our family. I try to shield Ethan from the worst of it, but Frank's words have a way of worming their way into his mind. I watch as my once confident husband starts to doubt himself, his dreams slowly crumbling under the weight of his father's disapproval. One evening, I overhear Frank talking to Ethan in the living room. His voice is loud, carrying easily through the thin walls. "You're a failure, Ethan," he says, his tone dripping with contempt. "You think you can change the world with your little nonprofit? You can't even take care of your own family." I feel a surge of anger rising in my chest, and I storm into the room, my eyes blazing. "That's enough, Frank," I snap, my voice trembling with rage. "You have no right to speak to Ethan that way." Frank turns to me, his face twisted into a sneer. "Stay out of this, Zara. This is between me and my son." But I refuse to back down. "Ethan is my husband," I say, my voice growing stronger with each word, "and I won't let you tear him down like this." Frank scoffs, shaking his head. "You don't understand, girl. I'm trying to help him, to make him see the error of his ways." I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. "Help him? By crushing his dreams and making him feel worthless? That's not help, Frank. That's abuse." Ethan looks up at me, his eyes wide with surprise. I can see the gratitude in his gaze, the relief at having someone stand up for him. But Frank isn't finished. "You think you're so smart, don't you, Zara?" he says, his voice low and menacing. "You think you know what's best for Ethan? Well, let me tell you something. I'm his father, and I know what's best for him. And what's best is for him to give up this foolish dream and focus on taking care of his family." I shake my head, my heart breaking for Ethan. "You're wrong, Frank. Ethan's dream is what makes him who he is. It's what drives him, what gives him purpose, and I won't let you take that away from him." Frank's face darkens, and for a moment, I think he might lash out at me, but instead he turns and stalks out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I turn to Ethan, my heart aching at the defeated slump of his shoulders. "I'm so sorry," I whisper, pulling him into my arms. "I'm sorry you have to deal with this." Ethan clings to me, his body shaking with silent sobs. "I don't know what to do, Zara," he says, his voice muffled against my shoulder. "I feel like I'm being pulled in 1,000 different directions." I stroke his hair, my mind racing with possibilities, and then, suddenly, it hits me. The pieces fall into place, and I realize the truth of what's been happening. "Ethan," I say, pulling back to look him in the eye, "I think your father is manipulating us. I think he's been planning this from the start. Ethan frowns, his brow furrowing in confusion. What do you mean? I take a deep breath, my mind whirling with the implications of what I'm about to say. Think about it. He shows up out of nowhere, asking for money and a place to stay. He guilt-trips you into quitting your job and starting a nonprofit, knowing it will put a strain on our finances. And now he's constantly belittling you, making you feel like a failure. Ethan's eyes widen, and I can see the realization dawning on his face. You're right, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. But why? Why would he do this? I shake my head, my heart heavy with the knowledge of what we're up against. I don't know, I say, but I intend to find out. The next day, I wait until Ethan leaves for work before confronting Frank. I find him in the living room, lounging in his armchair with a newspaper in his lap. We need to talk, I say, my voice tight with anger. Frank looks up at me, his eyes narrowing. About what? I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation to come. I know what you're doing, Frank. I know you're manipulating Ethan, trying to bleed us dry. Frank's face hardens, and he sets the newspaper aside. I don't know what you're talking about, Zara. I'm just a concerned father, trying to look out for my son. I shake my head, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. No, you're not. You're a liar and a manipulator, and I won't let you get away with it. Frank stands up, his face twisting into a sneer. You don't know anything, girl. You think you can come into my family and start making accusations? You have no idea what you're talking about. I stand my ground, refusing to be intimidated. I know more than you think, Frank. I know about your debts, about how you've been using Ethan to pay them off. Frank's eyes widen, and for a moment I see a flicker of fear cross his face, but then his expression hardens, and he takes a step towards me. You think you're so clever, don't you, Zara? He says, his voice low and menacing. You think you've got it all figured out. Well, let me tell you something. You're right, I am in debt. But it's not from gambling. It's from failed business ventures, investments that went south. I stare at him, my mind reeling with the implications of his words. So, you've been using Ethan to bail you out? To pay off your mistakes? Frank shrugs, a cruel smile playing at the corners of his mouth. What can I say? The boy owes me. I raised him, put a roof over his head. The least he can do is help his old man out in his time of need. I feel a surge of disgust rising in my throat, and I have to fight the urge to slap the smug look off his face. You're despicable, I spit, my voice trembling with rage. You're taking advantage of Ethan's love for you, his sense of duty. You're destroying him, piece by piece. Frank laughs, the sound harsh and grating. Destroying him? Please. I'm making him stronger, teaching him the realities of life, and if he can't handle it, well, that's his problem. I shake my head, my heart breaking for Ethan. You're wrong, Frank. Ethan is one of the strongest people I know, and he doesn't need you, not anymore. Frank's face darkens, and he takes another step towards me. You think you can turn him against me? You think you can take my son away from me? I stand my ground, my chin lifted in defiance. I'm not taking him away from you, Frank. You're doing that yourself, with your lies and your manipulations. Frank's hand twitches at his side, and for a moment I think he might strike me. But instead, he turns away, his shoulders slumping in defeat. You don't understand, Zara, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. I have a plan, a way to get out of this mess. I was going to sell the house, force you and Ethan out. I even turned his sister against you, convinced her to take my side. I stare at him, my mind reeling with the depths of his betrayal. You monster, I whisper, my voice trembling with emotion. You would destroy your own family just to save yourself? Frank turns back to me, his face a mask of desperation. I have no choice, Zara. I'm drowning in debt, and I need a way out. I shake my head, my resolve hardening. No, Frank, you do have a choice. You can face the consequences of your actions like a man. You can tell Ethan the truth and beg for his forgiveness. Frank's face twists into a sneer, and he turns away from me. I won't do that, Zara. I can't. I nod, my heart heavy with the knowledge of what I must do. Then I will, Frank. I'll tell Ethan everything, and we'll see how he reacts. But one thing is for sure. You won't be staying in this house any longer. Not if I have anything to say about it. The next few days are a blur of activity. I know I need to act fast, to gather evidence of Frank's betrayal before he has a chance to put his plan into action. I start by secretly recording our conversations, hiding my phone in my pocket and letting it capture every vile word that spills from Frank's lips. He talks about his debts, about his plans to sell the house and leave us with nothing. He even brags about turning Olivia against us, convincing her that we're the enemy. It's sickening to listen to, but I force myself to keep going, to gather as much evidence as I can. I know I'll need it if I'm going to convince Ethan of the truth. Finally, after days of recording, I have what I need. I wait until Ethan gets home from work, then pull him aside, my heart pounding in my chest. "There's something you need to hear," I say, my voice trembling with emotion. I play the recordings for him, watching as his face goes from confusion to shock to anger. He listens in silence, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. When the last recording ends, he looks up at me, his eyes blazing with fury. "I can't believe it," he whispers, his voice hoarse with emotion. "My own father betraying me like this." I nod, my heart breaking for him. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I know how much you love him, how much you wanted to believe in him." Ethan shakes his head, his jaw clenched tight. "No, Zara, you were right all along. He's been using me, manipulating me, and I let him do it." I reach out and take his hand, squeezing it gently. "It's not your fault, Ethan. He's your father, and you wanted to believe the best of him. But now we need to focus on protecting ourselves, on getting away from him before he can hurt us anymore." Ethan nods, his eyes hardening with resolve. "You're right. We need to sell the house, move out before he realizes what's happening." We spend the next few days in a flurry of activity, contacting real estate agents and packing up our belongings. We work in secret, but I was careful not to let Frank catch on to our plans. Finally, the day arrives. We found a buyer for the house, and everything is in place for us to move out. I wait until Frank leaves for one of his mysterious errands, then call Olivia, my hands shaking as I dial her number. "Olivia, it's Zara," I say when she answers. "There's something you need to hear." I play the recordings for her, my heart pounding as I wait for her reaction. At first, there's only silence on the other end of the line. Then I hear a sharp intake of breath, followed by a string of curses. "That bastard," Olivia says, her voice trembling with anger. "I can't believe I let him manipulate me like that." I feel a surge of relief wash over me, and I let out a shaky breath. "It's not your fault, Olivia. He's good at what he does. But now we need to stand together to make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Olivia agrees, and we spend the next hour plotting our next move. By the time we hang up, I feel a sense of hope stirring in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, we can come out of this stronger than ever. The next day, Ethan and I load the last of our belongings into the moving truck and drive away from the house that has caused us so much pain. As we pull out of the driveway, I catch a glimpse of Frank's face in the rearview mirror. He looks shocked, angry, and maybe even a little afraid. But I don't let myself feel sorry for him. He made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. And as for Ethan and me, we have a whole new life ahead of us, one free from lies and manipulation. And I know deep in my heart that we're going to be just fine. We're barely settled into our new apartment when the phone rings. It's Frank, his voice tight with anger. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Ethan?" he shouts, his words slurring together. "You can't just sell the house and leave me with nowhere to go." Ethan takes a deep breath, his hand clenching the phone so tightly his knuckles turn white. "It's done, Dad. The house is sold, and we're not coming back." Frank lets out a string of curses, his voice rising with each word. "You ungrateful little bastard. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" I see the pain flash across Ethan's face, and I reach out to take his hand, squeezing it gently. He looks at me, his eyes filled with gratitude, and turns back to the phone. "You haven't done anything for me, Dad. You've been using me, manipulating me for your own gain, and I'm done letting you control my life." Frank scoffs, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you're so smart, don't you, Ethan? You think you can just walk away from me? From your family?" Ethan's jaw clenches, and I can see the anger building in his eyes. "You're not my family, Dad. Not anymore. A real family doesn't lie and cheat and steal from each other." There's a long pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment I think Frank might have hung up. But then his voice comes through the speaker, low and menacing. "You'll regret this, Ethan. You and that bitch wife of yours. You think you can just walk away from me? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I feel a chill run down my spine at his words, but Ethan doesn't flinch. I know exactly what you're capable of, Dad. And that's why we're walking away. You can't hurt us anymore. He hangs up the phone, his hand trembling slightly as he sets it down on the table. I wrap my arms around him, holding him close as he takes a shuddering breath. I'm so proud of you, I whisper, my voice thick with emotion. You did the right thing, Ethan. You stood up to him, and you won. Ethan nods, his eyes filling with tears. I couldn't have done it without you, Zara. You gave me the strength to fight back, to take control of my life. I smile, brushing a tear from his cheek. We did it together, Ethan, and we'll keep doing it together, no matter what comes our way. The next few days are tense, as we wait for Frank to make his next move. But as the weeks pass and nothing happens, we start to relax, to settle into our new life. And then, one day, there's a knock at the door. I open it to find Olivia standing there, her face streaked with tears. I'm so sorry, Zara, she whispers, her voice trembling. I should have believed you from the start. I should have known that Dad was lying to me. I pull her into a hug, my own eyes filling with tears. It's okay, Olivia, you're here now, and that's all that matters. We spend the next few hours talking, catching up on all the time we've lost. Olivia tells us about her own struggles with Frank, about how he's been trying to turn her against us for years. But I see the truth now, she says, her voice filled with determination, and I'm not going to let him control me anymore. I'm done being his pawn. Ethan nods, his eyes shining with pride. We're in this together, Olivia. All of us. We'll stand up to him, and we'll win. As the sun sets outside our window, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. We've been through so much, Ethan and I, but we've come out stronger on the other side. And with Olivia by our side, I know that nothing can stop us now. We're a family, a real family, and we'll face whatever comes our way together. A few days later, we get another call from Frank. This time it's Olivia he's after, his voice desperate and pleading. Olivia, sweetheart, you have to help me, he begs, his words tumbling out in a rush. I'm in trouble, and I need a place to stay. You're my only hope. Olivia's face hardens, and she grips the phone tighter. No, Dad, I'm not going to help you. Not after everything you've done. Frank's voice rises, his anger palpable even through the phone. You ungrateful little brat. I raised you. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? Olivia takes a deep breath, her eyes flashing with determination. You didn't give me anything, Dad. You took from me, you manipulated me, you tried to turn me against my own brother, and I'm done letting you control my life. There's a long pause, and then Frank's voice comes through the speaker, low and menacing. You'll regret this, Olivia. You and your brother and that bitch wife of his. You think you can just turn your back on me? You have no idea what I'm capable of. But Olivia doesn't flinch. I know exactly what you're capable of, Dad. And that's why I'm saying no. You can't hurt me anymore. And you can't hurt Ethan and Zara either. We're done with you. She hangs up the phone, her hand shaking slightly as she sets it down. Ethan wraps an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. I'm so proud of you, Olivia, he says, his voice thick with emotion. You did the right thing. Olivia nods, leaning into his embrace. I couldn't have done it without you and Zara. You showed me what real love looks like, what a real family is supposed to be. I feel my own eyes fill with tears as I watch them, my heart swelling with love and pride. We've been through so much together, the three of us, but we've come out stronger on the other side. The next day, Ethan and I make a decision. We're going to use the money from the sale of the house to pay off Frank's debts, to free ourselves from his grip once and for all. We contact his creditors, explaining the situation and offering to settle his debts in full. It's not easy and it takes a big chunk out of our savings, but in the end, it's worth it. We meet with Frank one last time in a neutral location with Olivia by our side. He looks haggard, his eyes bloodshot and his clothes rumpled. What do you want? He asks, his voice hoarse and defeated. Ethan steps forward, his chin held high. We're here to tell you that your debts have been paid, Dad. You're free and clear. Frank's eyes widen, and for a moment, I see a flicker of hope cross his face. But then, his expression hardens and he narrows his eyes. What's the catch? He asks, his voice dripping with suspicion. I step forward, my own voice steady and clear. There is no catch, Frank. We paid off your debts because we wanted to be free of you, once and for all. But that freedom comes at a price. You're on your own now, and you'll have to find your own way in the world. Frank's face crumples, and for a moment, I almost feel sorry for him. But then I remember all the pain he's caused, all the lies he's told, and my sympathy vanishes. "You can't do this to me," he whispers, his voice breaking. "I'm your father, Ethan. You can't just abandon me." Ethan shakes his head, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "You stopped being my father the moment you chose to lie to me, to manipulate me for your own gain. And now you have to face the consequences of your actions." We turn to leave, our hearts heavy but our heads held high. As we walk away, I hear Frank's voice behind us, a broken whisper that tears at my heart. "I'm sorry," he says, his words barely audible. "I'm so sorry." But it's too late for apologies, too late for forgiveness. We've made our choice, and we're not looking back. Months pass, and life goes on. Ethan and I settle into our new routine, our new life together. His nonprofit takes off, and I watch with pride as he pours his heart and soul into making a difference in the world. Olivia becomes a regular fixture in our lives, stopping by for dinner and movie nights, her laughter filling our home with warmth and joy. It's like we've always been this way, a family bound by love and trust, not by blood or obligation. But even as we move forward, the shadow of Frank still lingers. Ethan tries to hide it, but I can see the pain in his eyes whenever his father's name is mentioned, the guilt that still weighs heavy on his heart. One day, I come home from work to find Ethan sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. I rush to his side, my heart pounding with worry. "What's wrong?" I ask, my voice trembling. "Is it your dad? Did something happen?" Ethan looks up at me, his eyes red-rimmed and bloodshot. "I talked to Olivia today. She said Dad's not doing well. He's living in some run-down apartment, barely getting by on Social Security. She thinks we should reach out to him, try to make amends." I feel a flare of anger at the mention of Frank, but I push it down, focusing on Ethan's pain. "What do you want to do?" I ask, my voice gentle. Ethan shakes his head, his eyes filling with tears. "I don't know, Zara. Part of me wants to help him, to be the bigger person, but another part of me is still so angry, so hurt by what he did. I don't know if I can forgive him." I take his hand in mine, squeezing it gently. "You don't have to forgive him, Ethan. What he did to you, to us, is unforgivable. But maybe you can find a way to let go of the anger, to move on with your life." Ethan nods, his jaw clenching with determination. "You're right. I need to let go, to focus on the future, not the past." We decide to reach out to Frank, to offer him a small monthly stipend to help with his expenses. It's not much, but it's a start, a way to ease the guilt that still weighs on Ethan's heart. But when we try to contact him, we're met with silence. Calls go unanswered, emails bounce back undeliverable. It's like Frank has disappeared, vanished into thin air. Weeks turn into months, and still, there's no word from him. Olivia tries to track him down, but even she comes up empty-handed. It's like he's gone, a ghost haunting the edges of our lives. And then one day, there's a knock at the door. I open it to find a man standing there, his face lined with age and sorrow. "I'm sorry to bother you," he says, his voice hesitant, "but I'm looking for Frank Johnson. I'm his landlord, and I haven't seen him in weeks. I was hoping you might know where he is." I feel a chill run down my spine at his words, a sense of dread settling in the pit of my stomach. "I'm sorry," I say, my voice shaking. "We haven't heard from Frank in months. Is everything okay?" The man shakes his head, his eyes filled with pity. "I'm afraid not. Frank's apartment was a mess when I went in there. It looks like he hasn't been taking care of himself. I found a bunch of empty bottles, some pills scattered on the floor. I think he might be in trouble." I nod, my heart heavy with sorrow. "Thank you for letting us know. We'll do what we can to find him, to get him the help he needs." But even as I say the words, I know it's too late. Frank is gone, lost to his own demons, his own mistakes, and all we can do is pick up the pieces, to try to build a life without him. As I close the door, I feel a sense of sadness wash over me. But I also feel a sense of hope, a sense of possibility. We've been through so much, Ethan and I, but we've come out stronger on the other side. And whatever the future holds, I know we'll face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Because that's what family does. That's what love is all about. The phone rang just as I was about to sink into the couch with my favorite book. I glanced at the caller ID. Daniel. Sighing, I answered, "Hey, what's up?" "Laura, while you were away, I moved my parents' stuff in." Daniel's voice, casual and unapologetic, hit me like a thunderclap. "What do you mean?" My heart raced, and I sat upright, abandoning my book. "I told you we should have them live with us. They're here now." I felt the room spin. "Daniel, we never agreed on this. How could you decide this alone while I'm visiting Uncle John?" Daniel scoffed. "Come on, Laura, it's not a big deal. Besides, I figured you wouldn't mind." Mind? The audacity of his assumption left me speechless. This house, our home, was suddenly invaded by his unilateral decision. "Daniel, we need to talk about this." "No need, just stay there a bit longer. Honestly, it might be better if you don't come back at all." His words stung, a cold dismissal that echoed in the now silent room. I had always known Daniel was headstrong, but this blatant disregard for our partnership, for me, was a new low. "All right then, Daniel." "If that's what you want," I replied, my voice steady, belying the storm inside. There was a pause, a moment of uncertainty. "You're okay with this?" "Yes, Daniel. I guess it's time for me to move on anyway." The call ended abruptly, leaving me alone with my thoughts. For a moment, I let the hurt wash over me, the pain of being so easily discarded. But then, a flicker of resolve sparked within me. I remembered the plan Uncle John and I had discussed, a contingency for just such a betrayal. I reached for my phone again, my fingers deftly composing an email to a contact who could set our plan in motion. As I hit send, a sense of empowerment surged through me. Daniel thought he could easily upend my life, but I wasn't going to let him have the last word. The house we shared, it was more than just walls and a roof. It was the embodiment of my dreams, my efforts. Daniel might have believed he could just push me out, but he was in for a surprise. Uncle John's advice echoed in my mind. "Always be 2 steps ahead, Laura." I started packing my things, each item a memory, a piece of the life I thought I had. But as I folded my clothes and gathered my belongings, I realized something. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. I was no longer the naive girl who fell for Daniel's charm. I was Laura, strong and capable, and I was about to show Daniel that underestimating me was his biggest mistake. I closed my suitcase, my heart steady and my mind clear. It was time to face what was coming. And I was ready. I left the house under the cover of dawn, the first light casting long shadows on the path that had once led me to a shared dream. As I drove away, my mind wandered back to the days before Daniel, before the disillusionment. I had always been a bit of a dreamer, finding solace in the quiet corners of life. Growing up in a modest home with loving parents, I learned early on the value of hard work and the joy of simple pleasures. My mother, a talented home cook, had instilled in me a love for nutrition and healthy living. Her sudden passing during my teenage years left a void, one that I filled by immersing myself in studies, eventually leading me to become a dietitian. College was a blur of textbooks and late-night study sessions, but it was at a college reunion that I met Daniel. He was charismatic, the life of the party, and when his eyes met mine, I felt a spark that I had never experienced before. Our whirlwind romance was like something out of a fairy tale, and before I knew it, I was walking down the aisle, promising to spend my life with him. Our early days of marriage were filled with laughter and love. Daniel, with his job in marketing, seemed to be the perfect counterpart to my more grounded nature. But as the years passed, the laughter faded, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Daniel's charm had masked a deeper, more unsettling trait, his obsession with status and wealth. His comments on my salary, once infrequent, became a constant refrain. "You'd think a dietitian would earn more," he'd say, a sneer in his voice. I brushed off these remarks, focusing instead on our son, Alex, who was growing into a thoughtful and intelligent young man. Alex, much like me, found his father's materialistic views troubling. He had ambitions of going to a top university, dreams that I wholeheartedly supported. Daniel, however, seemed more concerned with how Alex's choices would reflect on him rather than on what was best for our son. It was during one of our heated arguments about Alex's future that I realized how far Daniel and I had drifted apart. He needs to aim for a prestigious college, Laura. It's about our family's reputation, Daniel insisted. But it's Alex's future, Daniel. Shouldn't we support what he wants? I countered, frustration evident in my voice. Daniel's dismissive attitude that night was a turning point for me. I knew then that something had to change, and so I found myself confiding in Uncle John, my mother's brother, and a wise confidant. It was he who helped me see the importance of standing up for myself and Alex. Together we devised a plan, a way to ensure that no matter what Daniel did, I would be able to protect my son and myself. As I drove towards Uncle John's house, the rising sun casting a warm glow over the horizon, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just a retreat. It was a step towards a future where I was no longer a bystander in my own life. It was time for Daniel to see that the quiet, unassuming Laura he thought he knew was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who wouldn't back down. Uncle John's home was a sanctuary, a place where I could gather my thoughts and plan my next steps. Over cups of steaming coffee, we sat at his old oak table, plotting. Uncle John, with his years of experience in law and a keen understanding of human nature, was the perfect ally. "You need to think about the long game, Laura," he advised, his eyes serious. "Daniel thinks he's outsmarted you, but we'll turn the tables on him." We discussed various strategies considering legal and financial aspects. Uncle John suggested transferring certain assets to my name and documenting all of Daniel's actions, should the situation escalate to legal proceedings. Throughout our discussions, my phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Daniel, ranging from dismissive to outright hostile. "You're overreacting, Laura. Just come back and we'll forget all this," read one. "You're being childish. Remember, I'm the one with the high-paying job," taunted another. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the plan. It wasn't just about getting back at Daniel. It was about securing a future for Alex and me. The thought of Alex brought a pang of guilt. He was preparing for his college entrance exams, and this upheaval was the last thing he needed. I called him, explaining as much as I could without burdening him further. "Mom, I get it. Dad's been different." Alex's voice was mature beyond his years. "Don't worry about me. I'm with Grandma and Grandpa. Focus on what you need to do." Hearing his words, I felt a mix of pride and sadness. My son was growing up in a broken home, yet he was showing more resilience and understanding than many adults. A few days turned into a week and then 2. Uncle John and I refined our strategy, ensuring every base was covered. We planned for the worst, but hoped for the best. The aim was to confront Daniel with a fait accompli, a situation where he had no choice but to acquiesce to our terms. Meanwhile, I kept up with work remotely, grateful for understanding colleagues and a flexible job. The normalcy of work was a welcome distraction, but every evening, as I sat in Uncle John's study, the reality of my situation sank in. Daniel, once the man I thought I would spend my life with, was now someone I barely recognized. His greed and selfishness had eroded the love I once felt, leaving in its wake a determination to protect what was rightfully mine, my dignity, my son's future, and my peace of mind. As I prepared to return to New York, I felt a sense of clarity. The path ahead would not be easy, but I was no longer the woman who left that house weeks ago. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever Daniel threw my way. The journey back to New York was a quiet one, filled with a mix of apprehension and resolve. The city's skyline, once a symbol of shared dreams and aspirations, now loomed like a battleground. As Uncle John drove, his steady presence was a reassuring reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. The plan was simple, yet bold. We would confront Daniel with the reality of his actions and the consequences that awaited him. Uncle John had already laid the groundwork, consulting with legal experts and ensuring that everything was in place for a seamless execution. Upon arriving home, the sight of moving boxes and unfamiliar cars parked outside was jarring. Daniel's parents, unaware of the impending storm, greeted me with polite smiles. "Laura, it's good to have you back," Daniel's mother said, a hint of unease in her voice. Daniel, however, was nowhere to be seen. His absence was both a relief and a frustration. I needed to face him, to look him in the eye and let him know that his days of controlling our lives were over. The house felt different, as if it had lost its warmth. Daniel's parents had made themselves comfortable, but the atmosphere was tense, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken conflict. I retreated to my room, the same room where I had packed my bags weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. I unpacked my suitcase, each item a symbol of the new life I was carving out for myself and Alex. That evening, as I sat at the dinner table with Daniel's parents, the conversation was strained. They spoke of Daniel in glowing terms, oblivious to his manipulative ways. I nodded and smiled, keeping my true feelings hidden. The time for revelations was not yet here. Later that night, Daniel finally returned. He was surprised to see me, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Laura, you're back," he said, his tone a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Yes, Daniel, we need to talk," I replied, my voice calm but firm. He scoffed. "What's there to talk about? You left, remember?" I stood my ground. "It's about the house, Daniel, and our future." Daniel laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the empty room. "What about it? You think you can just come back and everything will be as it was?" "No, Daniel, things will never be the same, but you need to understand something. This house, it's not just yours to decide on." His expression changed, a hint of worry creeping in. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, ready to lay out the reality he was about to face. "This house, it's in my name too, and I've been talking to a lawyer. We have options, Daniel, and none of them look good for you." For a moment, Daniel was speechless. The confident, controlling man I had known was gone, replaced by someone who realized he was no longer in control. "This is just the beginning, Daniel. You thought you could push me out, make decisions without me. But I'm not the same person you thought you could manipulate. I'm fighting back, for me and for Alex." Daniel's face hardened, the reality of the situation setting in. "You can't do this, Laura. I won't let you." But I was resolute. "It's already done, Daniel. You've made your choices, and now you have to live with them." As I left him standing there, a mix of anger and disbelief on his face, I knew that the hardest part was yet to come. But I was ready to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my son's future. The following days were a whirlwind of activity and tense exchanges. Daniel oscillated between anger, disbelief, and desperate attempts to regain control. But with Uncle John's guidance and my newfound resolve, I navigated each challenge with a clarity I never knew I possessed. Daniel's parents, caught in the middle, were a source of unexpected sympathy. His mother, particularly, seemed to sense the gravity of the situation. "Laura, I never realized things were this bad between you two," she confided one afternoon, her eyes filled with concern. "It's been building up for a while," I admitted, finding solace in her understanding. Our conversation was a reminder that Daniel's actions affected more than just us. As the day of reckoning approached, I prepared myself for the final confrontation. Uncle John had arranged for a meeting with Daniel, his parents, and our respective lawyers. The goal was to settle matters as amicably as possible, given the circumstances. The meeting was held in a neutral location, a stark conference room that mirrored the cold reality of our situation. Daniel was already there when I arrived, his posture rigid, his face a mask of defiance. "Let's just get this over with," he muttered as I took my seat opposite him. The lawyers laid out the facts. The house, purchased with contributions from both of our families, was legally co-owned. Daniel's unilateral decisions and his recent behavior had put him in a precarious legal position. As the reality of his situation dawned on him, Daniel's facade began to crumble. He looked at me, a mix of anger and desperation in his eyes. "Laura, please. We can work this out. Just come back home." But the home he spoke of no longer existed, not for me. "Daniel, you made your choices. Now I'm making mine. It's over." The negotiations were tense but straightforward. We agreed to sell the house and divide the proceeds. Daniel's parents would move to a smaller place, and I would start afresh, somewhere new, somewhere where the shadows of the past couldn't reach. As the meeting concluded, Daniel's mother approached me, her eyes moist with unshed tears. "I'm sorry, Laura. I'm sorry for everything." I hugged her, a gesture of mutual forgiveness and understanding. "Take care of yourself," I whispered. Leaving the conference room, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The battle was over, and though the road ahead was uncertain, I was free. Free from Daniel's control, free to build a new life for Alex and myself. The drive back to Uncle John's house was a quiet one. I looked out the window, the city passing by in a blur. I thought of Alex, of the bright future he had ahead of him, and of the new chapter I was about to begin. Uncle John broke the silence. "You did well, Laura. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Uncle John, for everything." As we drove on, the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the city. It felt like a promise of new beginnings and brighter days ahead. Months had passed since the day I walked away from that conference room, away from a life that was no longer mine. With each passing day, the sense of liberation and self-discovery grew stronger. I was rebuilding my life, piece by piece, on my own terms. The house sold quicker than we had anticipated. With my share of the proceeds, I bought a quaint apartment in a quiet neighborhood, a place where Alex and I could start anew. The walls were adorned with memories, both old and new, each telling the story of our journey. Alex had excelled in his exams, earning a place at his desired university. His resilience and determination were a source of immense pride. We often talked about his future, his dreams, and I saw in his eyes the same hope and ambition that had driven me through my darkest days. I found solace in my work, diving into community nutrition programs and workshops. My experiences had ignited a passion for helping others, for sharing the lessons I had learned about self-care and resilience. Occasionally, I heard news about Daniel through mutual acquaintances. He had moved into a smaller place. His lifestyle drastically changed. There was no joy in hearing of his struggles, only a quiet acknowledgement that the choices we make shape our lives. Uncle John remained a pillar of support, his wisdom and guidance a constant in my life. We often met for coffee, discussing everything from politics to philosophy. He had been more than just a mentor through my ordeal. He had become a true friend. As I sat in my new living room, the evening sun casting a warm glow through the window, I reflected on the journey I had been through. The pain, the betrayal, the fight for my rights, it had all led me to this moment, a moment of peace and contentment. I had learned that strength comes not from what we endure, but from how we rise above it. I had faced my fears, stood up for myself and my son, and in doing so, had found a sense of purpose and self-worth that no one could take away. The phone rang, jolting me from my thoughts. It was Alex, his voice bright and full of excitement. "Mom, I got an internship. It's exactly what I was hoping for." I smiled, my heart swelling with pride. "That's wonderful, Alex. I'm so proud of you." As we chatted, I realized this was what true happiness felt like. It wasn't about a perfect life. It was about a life lived with integrity, resilience, and love. The chapter with Daniel had closed, but a new one was just beginning. A chapter filled with hope, possibilities, and the promise of a future crafted by our own hands. And so, as the sun set, casting long shadows across the room, I knew that no matter what the future held, Alex and I would face it together, stronger and wiser than ever before.